Chapter 250, Sister Miaoga, why don't you teach Huan? _4 After all, I was about to take another wife, and I needed to properly comfort the women in my harem. Also, because of the issues between the Lu family and the Qin family, I was worried about accidents, which was why I hadn't let my wives and concubines bear children for some time. Now that the storm had passed, the Lu family had returned to tranquility. I could continue to live in peace, so naturally, it was time to get busy with childbearing. In the past half a month, with Lu Changsheng's continuous efforts, the concubines Xiao Yuyao and Xiao Yueru became pregnant. As for Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, Lu Changsheng was taking it slow with them, thinking of letting the two women rest more and spend some time on cultivation. After all, one had given birth to 3 children for him, and the other to 4, they deserved more breaks. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. On this day, it was the day of Lu Changsheng's wedding with Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan. The ceremony was extremely grand and lively. One could say it was a celebration for the entire clan. The whole of Qingzhou Mountain was joyous, draped in colored lights, adorned with large red lanterns. Early in the morning, Lu Changsheng, with the care of his 2 beautiful wives, Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, was adorned with a golden crown and dressed in a red groom's brocade. With a big red flower on his chest, he rode a spiritual horse, leading the wedding procession with drums and gongs to the residence of Lu Yuanding to welcome the bridal sedan. I pay my respects to my father-in-law. As soon as Lu Changsheng entered the door, he saw family head Lu Yuanding and immediately dismounted to respectfully perform a salute. Changsheng, Huaner has a somewhat willful disposition. I hope you can be more understanding, Lu Yuanding, the family head, said with slightly red eyes, patting Lu Changsheng's shoulder. Even though he was somewhat displeased that Lu Changsheng had married both his daughters, he still hoped that Lu Changsheng would treat his daughters well. Please rest assured, father-in-law, Lu Changsheng said earnestly as he clasped his hands together. Good. Lu Yuanding nodded, and once again patted Lu Changsheng's shoulder, saying, I believe in you. After a while, supported by 2 bridesmaids, Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan appeared. Both were dressed in phoenix crowns and rosy clouds robes, their exquisite faces veiled by the tassels hanging from the fiery red phoenix crowns, hiding their stunning visages from view. But their graceful figures, adorned in those gorgeous phoenix robes, were stunningly beautiful and dazzled all who saw them. Lu Changsheng looked at the 2 women before him, a smile on his face, and felt a surge of pride and joy well up from within. After all, Lu Miaoga was the first fairy he had encountered in the cultivation world. A woman who had caused his heart to flutter. Back then, to him, Lu Miaoga was a woman to be admired from afar. But at this very moment, she was about to become his wife. Not just that, both Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan had middle-grade spiritual roots. They were to become his only 2 wives with middle-grade spiritual roots. This gave him hope that the spiritual roots of his future children could reach an even higher level. Lu Changsheng stepped forward to assist the 2 women onto the bridal sedan. He could feel that both women had somewhat stiff palms, obviously nervous. Even Lu Miaohuan was more nervous than Lu Miaoga. This brought a smile to Lu Changsheng's face, and he gently pinched the tender palm of this second young miss. After sending the 2 women into the bridal sedan, Lu Changsheng mounted his horse and led the wedding procession grandly back. Since both families resided within Qingzhou Valley, the procession circled the entirety of Qingzhou Mountain, much like the time he had married Lu Miaoyun. I still remember when Lu Changsheng married Sister Miaoyun, who would have thought he'd be marrying both Sister Miaoga and Miaohuan today. Yes, I still remember Lu Changsheng from 10 years ago, when he came to our Lu family as an immortal seedling. In 10 years, from a son-in-law taken in through marriage to a top-notch talisman master, marrying Miaoyun, as well as Miaoga and Miaohuan, he's reached the peak of life. Everyone makes their own choices. Lu Changsheng's way of life, I suppose, leaves him with no regrets. 10 years, how many decades does one have in a lifetime, eh? In 10 years, Lu Changsheng went from a son-in-law to this point, yet over my 10 years, many people, looking at Lu Changsheng riding atop the spiritual horse with a face full of pride and satisfaction, couldn't help but feel touched and introspective. Over the past decade, most of the Lu family disciples had also come to accept Lu Changxing. But remembering how Lu Changxing had arrived at Qingzhou Mountain as a son-in-law years ago, it felt like a lifetime had passed, a feeling that made them sigh with emotion. Thus, Lu Changxing, riding his spiritual horse, leading the bridal sedan and the wedding procession, made a full circuit around Qingzhou Mountain and arrived at the Qingzhou Grand Hall. The Qingzhou Grand Hall was originally the central hall for the Lu family's meetings. It was in consideration of the Lu family ancestor personally overseeing the wedding ceremony, and the face of the family head Lu Yuanding, that this place was chosen for the wedding. For this wedding, even the normally plain hall had been decorated sumptuously. Lu Changxing dismounted and escorted the two brides, each in their phoenix crown and rosy clouds robes, from the bridal sedan. Together, they held a red silk ribbon and entered the great hall. To the sound of harmonious music, the three of them entered the main chamber. Familiar faces met their gaze. The Lu family ancestor sat in the main seat, wearing a smile, personally presiding over the wedding. Lu Yuanding and the fourth elder sat nearby, serving as the elders from both sides. Begin the ceremony and exchange vows. The Lu family ancestor's voice bellowed clearly. Thereupon, Lu Changxing, along with Lu Miaoge and Miaohuan, came before Lu Yuanding and the fourth elder. First salute to heaven and earth. Second salute to the high hall. Couple bow to each other. Under the witness of the Lu family's high-ranking members, Lu Changxing and the Miaoge sisters completed the ceremony and exchanged vows. Following was the procession to the bridal chamber. However, after taking the two women to the bridal chamber, Lu Changxing still had to return to receive guests. Changxing, I once told you that as my son-in-law, you should treat Qingzhou Mountain as your own home, but now I have something more to say to you. Chapter 251, Sister Miaoge, why don't you teach Huanhuan? _5 At this moment, the Lu family ancestor, with his somewhat clouded eyes, looked at Lu Changxing, and spoke in a gentle voice. Ancestor, please speak. Lu Changxing said respectfully upon hearing this. I know you have your own opportunities and secrets, which is why I've always been guarded. But I hope you remember one thing, you are the son-in-law of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. We are one family, so Qingzhou Mountain is your support. You are not alone. If there's anything, you can always talk to me. The Lu family ancestor spoke, his elderly voice exceedingly gentle, like that of an ordinary senior teaching his junior. Lu Changxing's heart skipped a beat upon hearing this. He could feel the sincerity in the words. He could tell that now the Lu family ancestor was exuding an aura of death. He knew that the battle at Red Leaf Valley had taken a toll on the already limited years of the Lu family ancestor. Whether it was the previous rewards, the matchmaking, or now these words, there was an undeniable element of coaxing. Hoping that he would stay with the Lu family. But regardless, the old man's actions and words touched his heart deeply. The young one understands, please be at ease, ancestor. As long as I am the son-in-law of the Lu family, I will not fail the family, Lu Changxing said to the Lu family ancestor with unwavering conviction. Now that his relationship with the Lu family had reached this stage, he naturally could not let them down. Even if he were to leave the Lu family in the future and establish his own clan, the ties with the family could not be easily severed. After all, he was not a person of heartless and ungrateful nature. He always remembered those who were kind to him in his heart. Good. The Lu family ancestor smiled upon hearing this. He patted Lu Changxing lightly and said, Go on, go to the bridal chamber, don't keep them waiting. Thank you, ancestor. Lu Changxing smiled and bowed his hands slightly. After making a quick toast, he headed to the bridal chamber. Having been through the experience several times, the bridal chamber was now familiar territory for Lu Changxing. With the maid Kuei-si attending, Lu Changxing used the jade balance beam to lift the red veils of the two brides and remove their tasseled phoenix crowns. Suddenly, two extremely beautiful faces that even phrases like national beauty and heavenly fragrance were insufficient to describe were revealed to Lu Changxing's eyes. Miaoge, who was originally ethereal and otherworldly, now had her cheeks tinted with makeup, making her fair, snowy complexion blush with a warm luster, coquettish and touching, radiant and charming, like a fairy descended to the mortal world. Mayaja's dreamy, mesmerizing eyes met Lu Changsheng's intense gaze, and she immediately became like a panicking deer, her beautiful head lowered shyly, a wave of bashfulness rising in her heart. This scene was an unparalleled beauty to Lu Changsheng, the most stunning landscape on earth. And the usually aloof and noble second young mistress, today, had completely melted her ice mountain demeanor. Her eyes brimming with emotion as she looked at Lu Changsheng, her delicate features now adorned with a hint of adorable shyness, charming and bewitching. "Sister Miaoga, Huan, you are truly beautiful." Lu Changsheng took a deep breath and praised generously. If he hadn't been through so much, seen so many things, just looking at his two charming brides in front of him might have been too much to handle, and he wouldn't be able to maintain such calm and composure. Then, taking the wedding cup from the tray held by the maid Kue Si, he said, "Sister Miaoga, Huan, today we become husband and wife, and from now on we shall journey through life together. Come, let us drink this cup to the full." Immediately after, the three of them drank the joint cup wine together. After finishing the wine, Lu Changsheng suddenly chuckled and said to Miaoga, "Life is unpredictable. When I first saw Sister Miaoga, I thought of you as an untouchable fairy, high above. I never imagined that one day I could marry you." Turning his gaze to Miao Huan, he continued, "When I first saw Huan, I thought she was both cold and fierce. And now?" Miao Huan, hearing Lu Changsheng describe her sister as a fairy and herself as cold and fierce, immediately objected with pouted lips. Her lips pursed, glistening and fresh as the most tender petals in the world, tempting Lu Changsheng to taste them carefully. "From now on, you are flawless." Lu Changsheng gazed at the second young mistress before him and said, before promptly tasting those petals. Miao Huan let out a soft moan, reminded that her sister was still there. But her body tingled all over and she began to tremble, unable to utter a sound. Then a series of rustling noises commenced. Lu Changsheng, the second young mistress, wrapped her snow-white arms around Lu Changsheng's neck involuntarily, her eyes slightly squinted, murmuring softly. Lu Changsheng gently clasped her creamy skin, trailing off with a drawn-out tone. "Husband," Miao Huan called softly, then her beautiful eyes closed tightly, her delicate features slightly furrowed, her head tilting back. Her exquisite, beautiful face blushed, her breath heaving with soft moans, her body shaking unceasingly. Miaoga, abashed beside them, didn't know how to react upon seeing her sister in such a state. But seeing her sister's plaintive behavior, she awkwardly comforted her while feeling somewhat flustered and shy. She could clearly feel her sister's body incredibly soft and scorching at this moment. "Sister Miaoga." Lu Changsheng turned to Miaoga, taking her delicate hand and slowly moving it. That gesture made Mayaja's heart surge with unending shyness. Her breathing quickened, her clear and lovely cheeks flushing like the rosy sky at sunset, becoming more radiant under the candlelight. "As the older sister, why don't you teach Huan?" said Lu Changsheng, taking in the fragrance from Miaoga and whispering softly. Then, the scene fades to black. That year, Lu Changsheng was 28 years old, with 7 wives, 11 concubines, and 24 maids. Chapter 252, The Young Lady and Second Miss Are Pregnant. _1 The next morning, Lu Changsheng awoke. Looking at the two newlywed wives beside him, whose features were about 70 to 80% similar and whose sleeping faces were stunningly beautiful, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. "This too is the motivation for my diligent cultivation," he said. "The heights are cold, and the path to immortality stretches endlessly. Cultivators are also human, with emotions and desires. If one were to practice cultivation by casting aside all emotions and desires, and enduring nothing but arduous cultivation, even if one were to reach the pinnacle of the immortal path and live a long and plentiful life, what joy would there be?" Lu Changsheng ruminated in his heart. At this moment, he experienced a feeling of enlightenment, a sense of spiritual satisfaction. It was as if his body and soul had both been sublimated. This was his Tao. The way of cultivation is manifold, different people follow different paths. As for him, his path was to traverse amid the chaos of the mundane world. He sought to satisfy his own desires and to cultivate an unobstructed mind and a relaxed spirit. Changsheng. At this moment, Lu Maiaja's eyelashes quivered as she slowly awoke, opening her clear and bright eyes. Looking at Lu Changsheng, her face revealed a trace of happiness and shyness, mixed with a faint joy. Huan is still asleep, let's sleep a bit longer, she said. Lu Changsheng, watching Lu Miaoge wake up, drew her enticingly fragrant and jade-like body into his arms. Bending his head slightly, he gazed at her fair, creamy neck, and spoke softly. Now married, Lu Miaoge no longer put on the airs of an elder sister as usual. She responded with a light, and nestled into Lu Changsheng's embrace. Her beautiful eyes were half opened, her lips slowly parting with breaths that tugged at the heartstrings. Huan is about to wake up, later we need to go see father, she said. The eldest mistress, noticing that Lu Changsheng's actions were becoming more intense, grabbed his hand, her hazy beautiful eyes looking towards her husband as she softly spoke. Even after the wedding night and becoming husband and wife, she tried to maintain the image of an elder sister in front of her younger sister. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng also stopped his movements. He knew the eldest mistress was shy. He had great respect for Lu Miaoge, or it could be said that this kind of thing was mutual. Immediately afterwards, Lu Miaoge got up, draped on a dignified and elegant white gossamer gown, and tidied up the clothing scattered beside the bed. Soon, Lu Miaohuan also awoke. Thinking of last night's scene, this second young mistress was even more shy than her sister Lu Miaoge. This was also because Lu Miaoge and Lu Changsheng had already had marital relations. By this time, Lu Miaoge had already finished dressing and applying makeup. Seeing that her younger sister had awakened, the gentle and graceful elder sister got the two of them out of bed, suggesting that they should go to serve tea and greet their father Lu Yuanding. Hearing this, the two of them did not delay. They immediately got dressed and went with Lu Miaoge to meet their father-in-law. After greeting their father-in-law and having breakfast, they returned home, and Lu Changsheng called over Lu Miaoyun, Chu Zhenzhen, and the others to start unpacking wedding gifts. This wedding was so grand, officiated by the Lu family ancestor, that everyone from Qingzhou Mountain had brought gifts. However, most were just token gestures. It was only the gifts from a few of the Lu family elders that were somewhat more substantial. To Lu Changsheng's surprise, the gift from the Lu family ancestor was actually a dual cultivation secret technique. Is the ancestor concerned about my multitude of wives and the depletion of my energy? He wondered, somewhat astonished. Nonetheless, he could tell that in terms of value, this dual cultivation secret technique was the most valuable of all the wedding gifts. But he possessed the yin-yang harmony technique. Contained within were many dual cultivation techniques, and he had no regard for the dual cultivation secret technique in the gift. But a true master always keeps the heart of an apprentice. With a learning mindset, Lu Changsheng flipped through the illustrated manual of the dual cultivation technique. Lu Miaohuan boldly took a few glances. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng directly pulled the women together and they all began to study it with keen interest. After all, it was one thing to understand dual cultivation, but none could be as simple and direct as the teachings in these illustrated manuals. He could talk about how to dual cultivate, but his wives might just think he was deceiving them. Now, with the dual cultivation technique gifted by the ancestor, there could be no doubt. As night fell, Lu Changsheng first went to comfort Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen, teaching the two women the dual cultivation technique and helping them with their cultivation. After all, one must not forget old love in the face of new. Late into the night, he then went to find Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan for cultivation. Now, naturally, the two women did not share one room and had separate chambers, which made Lu Changsheng feel a bit regretful. But he was not in a hurry. He knew such things needed to be approached gradually. It was better for them to be separate now, allowing both sisters to let go and relax. Otherwise, like last night, they would both hold back, and that would diminish the fun. Lu Changsheng first entered Lu Maiaja's room, where the eldest mistress was not asleep but meditating. She was still clad in a simple and elegant white gown, but with a bit more decoration than usual. Her black hair was tied up high, adorned with a green jade hairpin, and 2 earrings dangled from her delicate earlobes, adding a few touches of noble and refined charm to her transcendental beauty. Changxing, seeing Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoge opened her beautiful eyes and softly called out his name. Sister Miaoge, I finished reading the dual cultivation technique given by the ancestor today, and there are some parts one don't quite understand. I was hoping Sister Miaoge could enlighten me, Lu Changxing said as he approached. Lu Miaoge blushed at his words. She wasn't foolish enough to believe what Lu Changxing said. Not understanding cultivation? Clearly, it was just an excuse. Changxing, matters between men and women should have limits. If one overindulges, it can impact cultivation and also harm the body. Lu Miaoge gently pursed her lips and advised tenderly, like a wise woman and a good wife. Previously, she didn't feel it was her place to advise Lu Changxing too much, but now that she was married to him, she felt it was important to properly supervise Lu Changxing's cultivation. Sister Miaoge, you know me, from today on, I will exercise restraint. But I really have come to seek guidance in cultivation, he replied. Chapter 253, The Young Lady and Second Miss are pregnant. Moreover, dual cultivation benefits both of us. Lu Changxing naturally knew that Lu Miaoge wanted what was best for him. But he practiced the 100 Refinements treasure body art, and his body was comparable to a middle-grade magic artifact. To say he was as tough as iron was not an exaggeration. Watching her husband's appearance, Lu Miaoge's beautiful eyes brimmed with affection. She heaved a helpless sigh, knowing she had to take persuasion slowly. Her pearly teeth nibbled lightly on her tender lips, leaving a faint white mark as she nodded gently. Immediately thereafter, accompanied by the rustling sound of shedding garments, the two began their dual cultivation. Sister Miaoge, how do you feel? Is my tiger step like what is described in the books? Lu Changxing spoke out loud. Even though Lu Miaoge was good-natured and as gentle as water, upon hearing this, she turned her face away and did not respond, ignoring him. After all, how could she respond to something like this? To this, Lu Changxing did not mind and continued the dual cultivation, talking to himself. His way of speaking was simply to tease Lu Miaoge. Just like the novel he read in his previous life, where Ling Xiaodong conquered Zheng Yiyun, there was a process of conquest from body to heart. Even after marrying her, there still needed to be this gradual and cyclical process. About half an hour later, sentiment surged, and the dual cultivation came to an end as they embraced each other tightly, clinging together. Changxing, it's time to rest. Lu Miaoge's face was flushed, her beautiful eyes showing a hint of seductiveness as they opened and closed. She breathed quickly, holding on to Lu Changxing's neck tightly, her breath sweet as she spoke. Sister Miaoge, I don't quite understand the techniques of blowing the jade flute and koi sucking water mentioned in the dual cultivation methods. Lu Changxing, seeing the young mistress looking like this, gently caressed her sweaty, fair face and said. Even though Lu Miaoge hadn't taken a close look at the dual cultivation methods during the day, she vaguely understood the meanings upon hearing his words. Her eyelashes trembled, and her beautiful forehead dropped slightly, not speaking. Seeing this, Lu Changxing just smiled and held Lu Miaoge quietly. He hadn't thought that with just a word, Lu Miaoge would obey him. It still required a process, after all. After resting with Lu Miaoge for a while, Lu Changxing then hurried on to his next engagement. After all, having multiple wives and concubines came with its own troubles. There was another young mistress waiting for his comfort. When Lu Changxing arrived at Lu Miaohuan's room, the light was already out. But Lu Changxing could feel that the second young mistress had not yet gone to bed. He immediately knew that he had made this second young mistress wait too long and that she was in a bit of a mood. In the past, Lu Changxing naturally wouldn't have indulged such a mood. But now that she was his wife, he found a little mood to be nothing serious, considering it a bit of flirtation. Entering the room, Lu Changxing approached the bed and coaxed Lu Miaohuan, who was under the covers. The second young mistress now was all too easy to coax. It didn't take long before she was appeased. As he lifted the covers, he saw that Lu Miaohuan was still wearing a sparkling gown, as though flowing with stars. It was exactly the dress he had expressed during the day his desire to see her wear, the one from when they first met. Lu Miaohuan's graceful figure was perfectly displayed under this gown. Her fair and delicate skin seemed even more tender and soft like snow. Under the hem of the starry night-like gown, the contour of a pair of beautiful legs was visible yet hidden. With one glance, Lu Changxing spotted that on these beautiful legs were wrapped a layer of thin, cicad-wing-like black silk stockings. This made her legs appear even more slender and temptingly sensual. Hiss! This caused Lu Changxing to inhale sharply, and he immediately seated himself on the bed, lifting the second young mistress into his embrace and resting her straight, tempting legs on his own thigh. He spoke warmly, "Huan, it's all my fault for making you wait so long. Your feet are a bit cold, let me warm them for you," he said as he gently stroked them, suddenly grasping her round calf and slender ankle with genuine concern. Even through a layer of stockings, he could still distinctly feel the whiteness and delicacy of her skin. Lu Miaohuan heard his words and looked at Lu Changxing with eyes that were both reproachful and delighted, giving him a look. She thought to herself that she hadn't guessed wrong after all. Lu Changxing indeed had peculiar tastes. But at that moment, she did not feel disgusted. Instead, she felt a sense of pride, believing herself to be alluring. It was Lu Changxing who had fallen for her first. In a flurry of sweet nothings from Lu Changxing, it didn't take long for Lu Miaohuan to don a body-hugging gown aglow with starlight, her tall and graceful figure leaning against the windowsill. Her shapely, long legs, sheathed in black stockings, were perched atop a pair of stiletto heels that complemented her dress, with a nebulous starry design. The heels, slender and 3 to 4 inches tall, not only accentuated the perfect, alluring contours of the young mistress' legs but also added to her overall statuesque height. Under the soft glow of the moon, her dark and lustrous hair cascaded down her back, smooth and reaching the waist of her gown, resting above her shapely hips, making Lu Miaohuan's beauty breathtaking at that moment. Lu Changxing stood behind her, embracing the undulating, alluring body of his wife, together admiring the moon. A moment later, Lu Miaohuan bit her lip, her delicate and stunning face flushing with a rosy glow. The blush stretched to her exquisite earlobes, along the length of her swan-like neck, and her cool and proud demeanor could no longer be maintained. In a voice as faint as a mosquito's, she said to Lu Changxing behind her, You better not ruin my clothes. Huan, when the time comes, I will buy you new ones. Lu Changxing whispered softly. As noble and aloof as an iceberg, the second young mistress began to thaw and let herself be manipulated. Rip, following the sound of tearing cloth was a series of whimpers that were at once resentful and longing, plaintive and complaining. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan quickly integrated into the big Lu family. And just as Lu Changxing had expected, seeing so many children in the courtyard, neither Lu Miaoga nor Lu Miaohuan had the heart not to have a few of their own. They both expressed a willingness to have children. But only one each. Lu Miaoga's reason was that she still needed to consider her cultivation. And she had to manage the affairs of the spiritual talisman shop. As for Lu Miaohuan, she was simply a bit scared of childbirth. Hearing this, Lu Changxing naturally accommodated their wishes. And during this month, both Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan became pregnant. For Lu Changxing, this was a source of immense joy. One reason was that for the wives and concubines he loved, he indeed held a partial fondness for their children. He couldn't manage to be entirely equitable. Additionally, both Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan had middle-grade spiritual roots. And he himself now had a 6th-grade spiritual root. Therefore, Lu Changxing had some expectations for the children in the bellies of the two women. After Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan became pregnant, Lu Yuanding came to visit, bringing many nutritional supplements. They included both his personal gifts and those representing the Lu family. Even though Lu Changxing wasn't exactly short on money now, he naturally accepted the heartfelt gifts. At the same time, Lu Yuanding also told Lu Changxing to take charge of the 9 Dragons marketplace. With the family crisis resolved, all external businesses naturally needed to be quickly revived and operational. Hearing this, Lu Changxing naturally agreed, but mentioned that he still had some matters to attend to in the mortal world. After all, it had been a year and a half since he had visited his wives and children in the mortal world, due to the series of events involving the Lu family. He also told Chu Jinjin about the true culprit behind the murder of her family and planned to take her to the mortal world to resolve the matter and pay respects to her parents. For this, Lu Changxing truly felt he had not done enough. All these years, he had never taken Chu Jinjin home to pay tribute to her parents. Hearing this, Lu Yuanding didn't say much, only urging Lu Changxing to make it quick. After all, they could hire someone to manage the shop. But due to the former hurried circumstances, the businesses had fallen behind. It was crucial to have one of their own take charge and swiftly restore operations. Immediately, Lu Changxing, without delay, requested a flying boat from Lu Yuanding. Because this trip to the mortal world, he was not only taking Chu Jinjin with him, but he also planned to send some of the children to the mortal realm. Although he owned a flying boat, it was considered ill-gotten gains and might attract the attention of the Yu family. So, Lu Changxing had no intention of using it publicly for the time being. For 300 family contribution points, Lu Yuanding approved a flying boat for Lu Changxing. Immediately after, Lu Changxing, accompanied by Chu Jinjin and 6 children old enough to travel, set off for the mortal realm. Chapter 254, A 10-Year Pact. Revenge_1 The sky is clear for thousands of miles, and the azure is spotless. A flying boat slowly descended from the sky and landed outside of Rui County City. Lu Changxing took out a transmission talisman and sent messages to Hong Yi and Li Feiyu. About a quarter of an hour later, Hong Yi and Li Feiyu hurried out from the city. "Brother Hong, Feiyu." Lu Changxing greeted the two men. He then introduced Chu Jinjin and the children to Hong Yi. After a brief introduction and exchange of greetings, Lu Changxing asked Chu Jinjin to take the children onto a carriage and head into the city. "Changxing, I heard from Brother Hong that the Lu family has destroyed Red Leaf Valley." At this moment, Li Feiyu turned to Lu Changxing and inquired. He had been closely following the events concerning Qingzhou Mountain and Red Leaf Valley. By now, after so much time had passed, he had also gathered news about the Lu family and the Qin family. Learning that the Lu family had obliterated the Qin family of Red Leaf Valley came as a tremendous shock, and he had no clue what was going on. "That's correct." Lu Changxing nodded. He did not conceal the truth. He briefly recounted the matters between the Lu family and the Qin family. At the same time, he asked Li Feiyu about his future plans, whether he intended to stay in the secular world or return to Qingzhou Mountain. He could tell that Li Feiyu's cultivation level was still at the 4th level energy refinement. In the secular world, even with the minor spirit gathering array he had set up, cultivation was exceedingly difficult. It was completely incomparable to cultivating in a place with a spiritual vein like Qingzhou Mountain. "No, the children are much older now, and my parents can take care of them. I plan to finish out the year and then go to the cultivation world to try my luck and see if there's an opportunity," said Li Feiyu. His determination to pursue cultivation had never wavered. He knew that with his current circumstances, if he didn't take a leap of faith now, let alone foundation establishment, he'd have no chance of reaching the energy refinement late stage in this lifetime. Red Leaf Valley has been destroyed, and the Lu family, Bai family, Yu family, and Jing family will establish a marketplace in Red Leaf Valley. Once the marketplace is completed, and everything comes to life, it will be a decent place to go, Lu Changxing spoke up. From what he knew, the Red Leaf marketplace would be completed in 1 or 2 years. Once it was built, to attract loose cultivators and businesses to settle there, the 4 major families would offer various favorable policies. During this phase, for loose cultivators, it would be a good time. If Li Feiyu were to go to Red Leaf Marketplace, he could also look after him to some extent. After all, venturing out to explore ancient ruins and secret realms, in his view, was still too dangerous. It was almost a sure path to death. But he also knew that for ordinary loose cultivators like Li Feiyu, the only way to make progress in cultivation was to take this one path. "Okay, I'll consider it when the time comes," responded Li Feiyu after hearing this. Red Leaf Valley is going to have a marketplace? Upon hearing this, Hong Yi too was somewhat surprised, seeing a business opportunity. "Yes, Brother Hong, if you're interested, you can go and have a look when the time comes." If you want to purchase a shop, I can also help make introductions, Lu Changxing said to Hong Yi. Now that his wives and children were settled in the secular world, and the Rui Marquis mansion was looking after them, he naturally wanted to return the favor. After the establishment of the Red Leaf Marketplace, the major families would release some of the shops and residences to be sold cheaply. If Hong Yi was interested, he could obtain a quota from the Lu family for him. Thank you, Brother Lu. I will discuss this matter with my father when I return home, expressed Hong Yi, his face lighting up with joy. He knew that the shops and dwellings available at the start of such a marketplace were not easy to get hold of. One needed to qualify. He didn't expect Lu Changxing would actually offer to facilitate this for him. This made him inwardly marvel at Lu Changxing's current status and position within the Lu family. He had never imagined that in just a short decade, the rural boy whom he had once overlooked would rise to such heights. He felt fortunate that his attitude had changed swiftly back then, and that he had established a good relationship with Lu Changxing. Brother Lu, you asked me to investigate the mastermind behind the murder of your sister-in-law's family, and now they are being detained in the Marquis Mansion dungeon, said Hong Yi. Lu Changxing looked at the carriage where Chu Zhenjin was present, and nodded. From a previous letter from Hong Yi, he had already learned the details of the matter. As he had suspected, the cultivator was a parasitic cultivator. Because he practiced an energy drain technique, he served as a household protector in a small family, relying on draining energy from women for cultivation, and directing people in the secular world to seek out girls with a spiritual root. Therefore, the incident involving Chu Zhenjin had unfolded. Bringing Chu Zhenjin with him on this trip was also to deal with this issue. All right, Brother Lu, you can get in touch with me when you're ready to come over. My father has also been wanting to meet you, Hong Yi added, nodding. Then, the three of them continued to chat casually, discussing recent events as well as matters related to the cultivation world. By the way, Brother Lu, do you stay in touch with Daoist Xiao, Daoist Zhao, and Daoist Han? Hong Yi asked at that moment. I have corresponded with Han Lin a few times, but I have had little contact with Daoist Xiao and Daoist Zhao, replied Lu Changxing as he shook his head. After their 3-year agreement, although they made another 10-year pact, 10 years was ultimately too long. A slight friendship from back then might not stand the test of time. And Lu Changxing wasn't someone who particularly enjoyed social interactions. So for many years, he had only corresponded a few times with Han Lin. He learned that the other party had become an artifact refiner, and found out that Xiao Xie was taken as a disciple by a nascent soul immortal. Afterward, Lu Changxing wrote a congratulatory letter to Xiao Xie who replied briefly, then there was no further interaction. I, on the other hand, correspond frequently with the three of them, Hong Yi began to speak. His personality differed from Lu Changxing's. Upon returning to the secular world, he maintained active communication with others. He also constantly endeavored to sustain this network connections. He then shared the recent situations of the three individuals. Chapter 255, A 10-Year Pact. Revenge. Xiao Xie was accepted as a disciple by a nascent soul immortal, had already broken through the energy refinement late stage, and had the prospects of reaching foundation establishment in the future. Zhao Qingqing, with her 6th grade spiritual root, became a pharmacist. But not long ago, through correspondence with Han Lin, he learned that Zhao Qingqing had awakened a latent spiritual body, the Veg body. This type of spiritual body does not enhance cultivation but is adept at nurturing spiritual medicine and performing healing. Therefore, Zhao Qingqing caught the eye of an elder who managed the medicinal garden at the outer sect and was taken in as a disciple. Han Daoist has become an artifact refiner, and now Lu Daoist is also a top-grade talisman master, leaving only me and Brother Li to waste our days in the mundane world, Hong Yi voiced his feelings. Back then, among the 6 of them, he was the one with the most privileged identity and background. Although he was doing fairly well now, when compared to Lu Changxing and others, the difference became obvious. He was only a little better off than Li Feiyu. Sigh. Li Feiyu sighed softly beside him but did not speak. At the time of their 3-year agreement, he had already become the worst off among the 6. Now, more than 7 years later, he was still the worst off. And the gap with the others was growing wider and wider. This was also the reason he was thinking of venturing into the cultivation world to make a stand. Feiyu. Lu Changxing, seeing his good brother like this, patted his shoulder. "I'm fine, just feeling a bit emotional seeing you all doing so well," Li Feiyu said with a wry smile, shaking his head. "Now, we only have 2.5 years left until the 10-year agreement we made back then. In a while, I'll write to ask Daoist Xiao and the others if they want to gather together," Hong Yi continued. "I'm fine with it." Lu Changxing nodded. He wanted to maintain these friendships if possible, but he didn't force it, preferring to let things take their natural course. After all, with the system by his side, he did not need Hong Yi's approach. Li Feiyu also nodded slightly. Although he did not entertain the idea of relying on others for help, he knew that maintaining these connections would be beneficial to himself. Just like now, his good relationships with Lu Changxing and Hong Yi provided him with many conveniences in terms of cultivation resources and information. While the three of them were chatting leisurely, the carriage arrived at the entrance of the Lu residence. Lu Lanshu, Lu Zier, Lu Qing'er, and Xia Zhiyue, along with a group of children, were standing at the entrance of the residence. It was clear they knew about Lu Changxing's arrival and were waiting at the entrance. "Lu brother, I have other matters to attend to, so I won't disturb your family reunion," Hong Yi said as he got up to take his leave seeing the situation. "All right, see you tomorrow," Lu Changxing nodded and then turned to look at his wives and children. "Husband, father, Jinjin, Auntie Chu." The wives and children, seeing Lu Changxing, immediately showed the joy of a long-awaited reunion. Lu Wuyo and Lu Shila even rushed over to embrace Lu Changxing. "Ha ha ha, did you miss Daddy?" Seeing this, Lu Changxing held the children and ruffled their heads, a smile also spreading across his face. "We missed you." After not seeing them for over a year, the children had all grown taller. From their stature and movements, it was evident that they had a solid foundation in martial arts. Such minor improvements in martial arts also boosted Lu Changxing's ability. However, this boost was too insignificant. For Lu Changxing, who was cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body art, it was almost negligible. "Lan Shu, it has been hard on you all these days," Lu Changxing said to his wives. "Husband, it wasn't hard," the women shook their heads, their eyes filled with tenderness. Let's go inside." Lu Changxing didn't linger to catch up at the entrance. He patted his eldest son, Lu Pingan, who had nearly grown as tall as his chest, and went inside with his wives and children. Now, the Lu residence had changed considerably from 1.5 years ago. The house now employed many protectors, martial masters, servants, and maids. Following Lu Lanshu's instructions, upon seeing Lu Changxing, the head of the household, they all respectfully paid their respects, calling out, "Old master, family head." Hee, Lu Changxing couldn't help but chuckle softly. He was still getting used to this title, but in the mundane world, after establishing a family, being called old master was also normal. And being 28 years old, he was indeed not young anymore. After settling the children, Lu Changxing spent time with his wives and children, joyfully having a reunion meal. That night, "Lan Shu, Zier, Qing'er, do you want to go back to Qingzhou Mountain for a visit?" Lu Changxing asked, embracing his wives. Sending his wives to the mundane world partly for the children's care, and partly as preparation for escape. Now that the situation of the Lu family had stabilized, if the three women wished to return to Qingzhou Mountain, he could take them back to live there on this trip. "Husband, well, just stay here with the children," all three women shook their heads. They did not necessarily want to leave Qingzhou Mountain, but they understood that with Lu Changxing's busy affairs, rather than going back to Qingzhou Mountain, it was better to stay here. Moreover, they also knew that Lu Changxing wouldn't bring the children back with them and didn't want to be away from the children. "All right, I'll come back often whenever I have time," Lu Changxing said warmly. He still had quite a bit of affection for his first three wives, and, following his words, he expressed his love through his actions. The next day, "Jinjin, why don't you stay at home, and I'll go alone," Lu Changxing said to Chu Jinjin. Although this trip was meant to bring Chu Jinjin along for revenge, she had never dared to kill even a chicken, let alone take a life for revenge. Moreover, he could see that over the years, Chu Zhenjin had been forgetting and shedding the hatred in her heart. If she were to see her enemy, it might bring back painful memories. Husband, Chu Zhenjin looked at Lu Changsheng, pursed her lips, and her eyes were determined, clearly wanting to go. Then let's go. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng held her hand and did not say much else. Chapter 256, A 10-Year Pact, Revenge. Accompanied by Chu Zhenjin, he arrived at the Rui royal mansion. Upon learning of Lu Changsheng's arrival, the doorkeeper immediately went to report it. Not only Hong Yi came out to greet them. Hong Yi's father, the Marquis of Rui, also personally came out to greet them. This Rui Marquis appeared to be in his 50s. However, through Hong Yi, Lu Changsheng knew that this Rui Marquis was actually over 70 and had more than 40 children. 7th level energy refinement. Lu Changsheng recognized the cultivation level of the Rui Marquis at a glance. Such cultivation strength was considered to be that of a master in the secular world. Spirit gathering array, a minor spiritual land? After entering the inner courtyard of the mansion, Lu Changsheng immediately sensed that there was a spirit vein beneath it. Similar to the one in Bullhead Mountain, it belonged to the less influential spirit veins. But in the secular world, even a minor spirit vein like this was rather impressive. After a brief conversation with the Rui Marquis, Lu Changsheng followed Hong Yi to a subterranean palace. Young Master Yi. At the entrance of the subterranean palace, 2 innate masters stood guard and greeted Hong Yi with a bow. Open the door, Hong Yi commanded outright. Upon entering the subterranean palace and walking through a tunnel, it was clear that this was a prison. The air was filled with a damp, musty smell, and many people were confined. Any martial arts experts or cultivators who cause trouble in Rui Prefecture are dealt with by the Rui Marquis mansion and imprisoned here. Gong Sun Hong is detained in the depths, Hong Yi explained to Lu Changsheng. Gong Sun Hong was the cultivator behind the scenes who had killed Chu Zhenjin's entire family. Lu Changsheng nodded slightly, holding Chu Zhenjin's hand as they followed Hong Yi deeper into the dungeon. Many cells on both sides were empty, some containing prisoners. Tight bindings in a cross shape, iron chains piercing through the arm bones, tendons in the hands and feet severed, and fetters and chains wrapped around the wrists and ankles indicated that the inmates who were detained here were generally formidable. They were either cultivators or at least innate masters. Hearing footsteps, many prisoners opened their eyes. Seeing Hong Yi, their eyes turned blood red as if looking at the murderer of their fathers. They struggled vehemently, gnashing their teeth and howling in anger. Seeing such a scene, Chu Zhenjin felt frightened and hugged Lu Changsheng's arm tightly. Although she was a cultivator at the 3rd level energy refinement, her timid nature hadn't changed much. It's okay, Lu Changsheng said to his petite wife while gently comforting her. Not to mention Chu Zhenjin, even he felt somewhat uncomfortable with the scene before him. After all, the most tragic scene he had witnessed was the killings in Red Leaf Valley. But that was not as revolting as what he saw now. Brother Lu, sister-in-law, this person here is Gong Sun Hong. Hong Yi stopped and pointed at a door to a cell, announcing. Inside sat a man in his 60s, with gray hair, a pale face, purple lips, and appeared to be at death's door. He was in a tight binding, iron chains piercing through the arm bones, tendons in the hands and feet severed, and fetters and chains wrapped around the wrists and ankles. Gong Sun Hong, Chu Zhenjin recognized that this was the very cultivator who had orchestrated the murder of her family. Hatred and anger surged in her heart. But at the same time, the thought that her parents died because of her brought a wave of sadness. Zhenjin, let me do it, Lu Changsheng sighed softly upon seeing his wife in such a state. He knew Chu Zhenjin's personality well. He had anticipated that even with the murderer before her, Chu Zhenjin's heart would only be filled with sadness and confusion. She would hardly experience the sensations of anger and hatred, the satisfaction of revenge. One reason was her personality. The other was that over the years, much of her hatred had been buried. Chu Zhenjin's eyes turned slightly red as she nodded. She had felt unwell ever since entering the dungeon. Even feeling nauseous. At this moment, asking her to take action to relieve her hatred by killing someone was really beyond her. Swish! Lu Changxing snapped his fingers. A streak of white sword light burst forth, ending Gong Sun Hong's life and severing his head. When he had saved Xu Zhenjin, he was still worried that the cultivator behind the scenes might come after them. But now, over 7 years later, killing the enemy was as easy as slaughtering a chicken. Wu, my husband, Xu Zhenjin trembled upon seeing Gong Sun Hong's death, tears streaming down her eyes as she held Lu Changxing tightly. Although she felt some relief from revenge, there was more emptiness and sadness in her heart. Knowing that her parents and family could never return. Sigh, Lu Changxing hugged his wife, stroking her hair and comforting Xu Zhenjin. If it weren't for giving his wife closure, and since she had insisted on coming, he would not have wanted to bring Xu Zhenjin to such a place. After the vengeance was done, Lu Changxing did not stay long. Picking up Gong Sun Hong's head, he bid farewell to Hong Yi and left. Carrying Xu Zhenjin, they rode on the Iron Feather Eagle toward Dongyang Prefecture, to Zhoushan Mansion. 1 day later, the couple arrived at Zhoushan Mansion. Father, mother, Wu, looking at the desolate, weed-infested courtyard, Xu Zhenjin finally could not hold back her tears and cried bitterly. Seeing this scene, Lu Changxing sighed softly. He consoled his fragile wife and erected a tombstone for her deceased parents. He then hired people to renovate the dilapidated mansion, arranging for someone to guard the place long-term. This was so that Xu Zhenjin wouldn't have to be so sad and distressed when she came to pay her respects in the future. He also thought that, should her elder brother who had taken up the demon path return, he would see that his sister was still alive and well taken care of. Chapter 257, Giving Birth to a Spiritual Body, Double Lottery Draw _1. After paying respects to his parents with Xu Zhenjin, Lu Changxing returned to Rui County City. He stayed in Rui County City for 3 days, accompanying his wives and children, before leaving with Xia Zizhu and Xu Zhenjin. He did not return to Qingzhou Mountain. Instead, he went directly to Nine Dragons Market. One reason was to avoid making an extra trip. Additionally, he would have use for this flying boat later on. He needed to send several maids and children from the marketplace into the mundane world. 5 days later, the flying boat descended outside Nine Dragons Market. After securing temporary identity plaques for the 2 women, Lu Changxing entered the marketplace. Back when he left Qingzhou Mountain, 7 of the 9 pregnant women had already given birth. The remaining 2 would also give birth in a couple of months. Now I already have 18 children with a spiritual root, but I don't know if these 2 children will have spiritual roots. Lu Changxing felt somewhat expectant in his heart. Both maids were purchased from White Jade Tower and possessed 9th grade spiritual roots. Therefore, there was a not so small chance that the children in their wombs would have spiritual roots. However, it was very unlikely for both to possess spiritual roots. Lu Changxing did not pay too much attention to it. After settling Xu Zhenjin and Xia Zizhu, Lu Changxing took Xia Zizhu to the neighboring courtyard. That was the courtyard where Xia Long once lived. He wanted his daughter to see her father's former residence. Looking at the deserted courtyard covered in dust and thinking of her deceased father, Xia Zizhu felt profound grief and her eyes reddened. Usually unable to bear such scenes, Lu Changxing sighed as well. He could only comfort her as much as possible. He let her cry out for her father all night, filling the void in her spirit. The next day, Lu Changxing went to the Lu family compound in the Eastern District. He met the already present second elder, and took back control of the spiritual talisman shop. In the half-year he had been gone, without the supply of supreme talismans from the fourth elder and a decrease in superior talismans, the shop's business inevitably suffered. Faced with this situation, the Lu family's approach was straightforward. Hold promotions and provide more superior and supreme talismans, allowing the business to begin to recover. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. In these 3 months, only Xiao Huang, who had been left behind, was pregnant. It wasn't that Lu Changxing didn't want to have more children. The maids with spiritual roots had just given birth not long ago and needed to recuperate. Xia Zizhu's cultivation had just broken through to the 3rd level of qi refinement. Lu Changxing planned to wait until she reached the 4th level of qi refinement and the middle stage before considering having children again. As for ordinary maids like Bai He and Hai Tang who lacked spiritual roots, now that he had so many wives and maids, Lu Changxing planned not to have any more children with them. After all, he believed in quality over quantity. I've been out for over 3 months now, it's time to go back. In the spiritual talisman shop, after completing his meditation and cultivation, Lu Changxing opened his eyes and exhaled lightly. He prepared to return to Qingzhou Mountain and see his wives and children. He did not go directly back to Qingzhou Mountain. Instead, he steered the flying boat, taking Chu Zhenjin and sending maids like Bai He and Hai Tang as well as a group of children to the secular world. As for Xia Zizhu, he temporarily settled her in Nine Dragons Market. One reason was that Nine Dragons Market needed someone to look after it. Additionally, having just married Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan not long ago, it seemed somewhat improper to bring someone back from outside the house so soon. After settling the maids and children into the mundane world and staying for 2 days, Lu Changxing took Chu Zhenjin back to Qingzhou Mountain. Upon returning to Qingzhou Mountain, Lu Changxing gave the spirit boat back. He stayed at home for 3 days, accompanying his wives and children. The yin-yang harmony technique's 5 aggregates proliferation method also came into play at this moment. However, the 5 aggregates proliferation method was not a sure hit. It merely increased the odds. Lu Changxing didn't know how effective it had been over these 3 days. 3 days later, amidst the reluctance of his wives, Lu Changxing rode the Iron Feather Eagle, taking Jiang Luyue back to Nine Dragons Market. Qingyun Sect. Kaiyun Peak, Mingyue Residence. Xiao Xie was dressed in a long, white gown, with a cool and ethereal demeanor, resembling a fairy from the Moon Palace. Clouds are heartless, the moon is heartless. She looked at the supreme forgetful love technique she was cultivating. She had completely understood the methods in the technique and even cultivated it to the 9th level of qi refinement. But when it came to the states of mind and the artistic conception of the technique, she could never grasp the essentials and failed to comprehend them. After pondering for a long while, Xiao Xie let out a soft sigh, took the cultivation technique, and went to the highest palace at the top of Kaiyun Peak. Upon reaching the palace, she saw a tall, slender, and breathtakingly beautiful figure in colorful garments standing in a daze at the railing, gazing into the distance. From the side, one could discern her magnificent curves under the loose colorful garments, resembling a valley among rolling hills. Her long, silky, jet-black hair hung down to her waist, almost covering her mature and full curves. Master. Xiao Xie called out respectfully. She couldn't remember when it started, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Her master began to enjoy standing alone, gazing into the distance. Shiyu, you've come. Is there something you need? Yun Wanshang turned her head to look at her, her stunning face revealing a gentle smile. Master, I've disappointed you. I'm still unable to grasp the state of mind of the supreme forgetful love technique. Xiao Xie held out the technique in her hand and spoke softly. Sigh. Yun Wanshang looked at her disciple who once was lively and clever, now cool and indifferent due to the supreme forgetful love technique, her beautiful eyes tranquilly impassive, and her demeanor pure and saintly, and she let out a slight sigh. Shiyu, the first layer state of mind of the supreme forgetful love technique is clouds are heartless, the moon is heartless. What's your understanding of it? Yun Wanshang asked. Both the clouds and the moon are in the sky, yet the moon is thousands of miles away from the clouds, with no interrelation between the two. Naturally, the clouds are heartless, and so is the moon. Xiao Xie replied, explaining her understanding. Chapter 258, a month later. Qingyun Sect. On the misty white jade square filled with celestial aura, hundreds of young men and women left with heavy hearts and low spirits. Yunlu, Xingyue, remember to cultivate diligently within Qingyun Sect and feel free to send a message home if anything comes up. You can also seek help from your uncles Han and Zhao, and your auntie Zhao. Lu Changxing spoke to his children before him. Today marked the once every 5 years Immortal Sect's exam of Qingyun Sect. Since Hong Yi had sent his son, Hong Xuanji, to participate in the Immortal Sect's exam at Qingyun Sect. Lu Changxing thought it over and decided to have several of his children take the exam as well. After all, cultivating at an Immortal Sect and learning skills in many aspects was indeed better than at home. Moreover, Qingyun Sect wasn't far from home. Sending the children there meant they would not only receive the family's training but also that of the sect. However, only those under 18 could participate in the Qingyun Sect exam, so naturally, Lu Pingan, Lu Yun, and Lu Chuanjin couldn't take part. Hence, out of the 8 children he chose to send for the Immortal Sect's discipleship exam, only his son Lu Yunlu and daughter Lu Xingyue, both with 6th grade spiritual roots, passed the assessment. The other 6 children, along with Hong Xuanji, failed to make it through the exam. Through connections, Lu Changxing also had a rough understanding of Qingyun Sect's criteria for accepting disciples. Spiritual root, perseverance, comprehension, Tao heart. The assessment was based on these 4 areas. But there was another unspoken criterion, age. Like Hong Xuanji with a 7th grade spiritual root, performed well in all 3 aspects of the exam but was disqualified because he was 18 years old. Brother-in-law, rest assured, I will take good care of Yunlu and Xingyue, said a good-looking young man in his late 20s, standing tall and wearing the Qingyun Sect disciple's magical robe, next to him. It was Xia Zizhu's brother, Xia Zhaoyang. With a 4th grade spiritual root, he was doing quite well in Qingyun Sect, with a cultivation level of 8th level energy refinement, and he had hopes to reach foundation establishment in the future. Alright, in that case, I'm counting on you to look after Yunlu and Xingyue, Lu Changxing said to his brother-in-law with a nod and a smile. He hadn't interacted much with Xia Zhaoyang, only conversing a few times. However, his impression of the man was decent, not one of heartlessness or unfaithfulness. After giving his instructions, Lu Changxing walked down from the White Jade Square, leaving with the 6 children who had been eliminated and Hong Xuanji. Xingyue, Yunlu, although you've passed the exam, you are only outer disciples. Besides cultivation, you need to choose a skill to learn. Which skill do you plan to study? Xia Zhaoyang asked, turning to the 2 nieces and nephews. However, the look he gave Lu Xingyue was noticeably more affectionate. He had been cared for by his sister Xia Zizhu since he was a child. Over the years at Qingyun Sect, Xia Zizhu often sent him a portion of her own cultivation resources and accumulated spirit stones. Thus, he always kept this familial love in his heart. Father said I can choose medicine, Lu Xingyue replied crisply. Although she had met this uncle several times, she still wasn't very familiar with him, and her voice held a hint of estrangement. Father told me to choose artifact refining, Lu Yunlu said. Good, I'll take you there, Xia Zhaoyang said, nodding his head and leading them away. Even though Qingyun Sect had uniform arrangements as a disciple of Qingyun Sect, he knew some of the ins and outs. For instance, if the sect knew someone had a family member there, they were typically escorted by that member, which meant the outer disciples in charge might show a little more care and attention. At the entrance of Qingyun Sect, many young men and women who failed to pass the exam left with sorrowful and disappointed expressions, some even crying out loud. Under such circumstances, Lu Changsheng's other 6 children were also downcast, pressing their lips tightly together. Seeing this scene, Lu Changxing couldn't help but reminisce about his own feelings upon learning that he had been rejected by Qingyun Sect 25 years ago. He patted his children's heads and said with an air of calm, "It's all right if you didn't pass. I wanted you to gain some experience by bringing you here." Xuanji, you shouldn't take it too hard either. Lu Changxing didn't feel too strongly about the children's failure to pass because he had anticipated it, and he also maintained an indifferent attitude about it. They walked out of the mountain gate, where Hong Yi was eagerly waiting outside. His face immediately fell upon seeing Lu Changxing and his son exiting. He had high hopes for his son, Hong Xuanji, wanting him to join an immortal sect and surpass himself. But now, seeing his son walk out of the gate, he knew the boy hadn't passed the exam. "Brother Lu, Xuanji," Hong Yi greeted Lu Changxing with a hand-over-fist salute. Xuanji did well in several areas of the exam, but he was disqualified because he's a little too old, Lu Changxing explained to Hong Yi. "Father, I have let you down. Your next read awaits at my virtual library Empire," Hong Xuanji said, slightly bowing his head to his father. He knew how much his father wished for him to be accepted into Qingyun sect. "Ah, it's okay," Hong Yi sighed deeply, patted his son's shoulder, and didn't say much more. Many others, like Hong Yi, showed sadness and disappointment when they saw their children or younger family members walking out of the gate. Most of them, being loose cultivators, understood the hardship of such a path and wished for their offspring to be admitted into an immortal sect. "Brother Hong, Xuanji is quite talented and intelligent, and he will not fare poorly in the future even if he hasn't joined an immortal sect. We ourselves were once rejected by Qingyun sect as well, weren't we?" Lu Changxing said to comfort him. "If Xuanji's future turns out a bit like mine, that would be decent, but it's audacious to compare him with you, Brother Lu," Hong Yi said, with a bitter smile on his face. Then, turning to Lu Changxing, he said with a hand-over-fist salute, "Brother Lu, I have an audacious request." "Haha, Brother Hong, just speak freely," Sarch *the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Lu Changxing laughed lightly and replied, guessing somewhat what Hong Yi was about to ask. "I was hoping, Brother Lu, that you could let Xuanji continue to work at By Lake Mountain. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know and report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 259. This day marked the annual family clan meeting of the Lu family. This year, the Lu family was still in a state of loss. However, compared to the previous year, the situation had relatively improved a lot. Faced with this situation, Lu Changxing didn't say much. He simply stated that they should keep up the effort, and if there were any children in the family who had ideas about marriage, taking a wife, or concubinage, they could bring it up actively and let the clan arrange it. After all, on By Lake Mountain's side, only his son Lu Xianji was married, which truly worried him as an elderly father. "Changxing, the internal organ issues of your uncle have improved quite a lot under my treatment with Tai True Water. If you have some free time, you could try to help your great-uncle remove the corpse poison." After the family clan meeting concluded, Lu Miaoge said softly to Lu Changxing. Previously, Lu Changxing had said that once she had managed Lu Yuanzhong's internal organ issues more or less, he could attempt to use sword qi to drive out the poison. "All right, I'll go with you in a few days." Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing held Lu Miaoge's hand and spoke warmly. The three of them returned to Changxing Hall, where Lu Miaoge typically used Tai True Water to nourish and heal Ling Zixio's meridians and dantian. Looking at the beautiful and gentle Lu Miaoge in front of him, Lu Changxing felt he needed to refine the foundation establishment elixir as soon as possible. Over 2 years had passed, with Lu Miaoge constantly running back and forth between Qingzhou Mountain and By Lake Mountain. Normally, she would also need to oversee the Red Leaf Valley Market, which kept her extraordinarily busy. Now that he had gathered almost all the auxiliary materials for the foundation establishment elixir, only 2 more medicinal ingredients were left. Thinking of refining the foundation establishment elixir as soon as possible and giving one to the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain, just as long as there was someone from Qingzhou Mountain who made a breakthrough and a new foundation building great cultivator was born, Lu Miaoge wouldn't have to be so busy, and she could cultivate peacefully on By Lake Mountain. With the effect of the Tai Dao seed, Lu Miaoge's cultivation speed was not at all inferior to those with high-grade spiritual roots. Yet because she was busy and constantly healing Lu Yuanzhong and Ling Zixiao, her own cultivation had been delayed. 3 days later. After informing Xiao Xie and Ling Zixiao, Lu Changxing went with Lu Miaoge to Qingzhou Mountain to help Lu Yuanzhong eliminate the corpse poison. Considering that Lu Miaoyun and Lu Miaohuan had also not returned for quite a long time, he took both women with him, as well as his son Lu Yun, Lu Qingsong, and others to go together. "Changxing, Miaoge, you've come." Learning of Lu Changxing's arrival, people like Lu Yuanzhong and Lu Yuanding came out to welcome them. "Father-in-law, uncle," Lu Changxing greeted the newcomers cheerfully. After a simple catch-up, Lu Changxing checked Lu Yuanzhong's condition. Under Lu Miaoge's application of Tai True Water, Lu Yuanzhong's organs, which had been corrupted by the corpse poison, regained vitality. But the issue of the corpse poison in the organs still hadn't been resolved, clinging to the organs like a persistent illness. "Ancestor, although I am somewhat confident in driving out the poison, now that the corpse poison has integrated with your organs, it might be hard to completely eradicate it. If the detox goes too deep, it could also harm your organs, Lu Changxing said after pondering for a moment. Changxing, just do as you see fit, Lu Yuanzhong said. With the strength and methods Lu Changxing had shown and the changes in Lu Miaoge, he had utmost faith in Lu Changxing. Continue your journey at my virtual library empire, alright, Lu Changxing nodded, asking Lu Yuanzhong to lie down. He placed his palm on the man's chest and began to drive out the corpse poison with the 7 luminary sword qi. This, such a domineering and fierce sword qi. Lu Yuanzhong's expression shifted slightly, revealing a look of shock in his eyes. Through the 7 luminary sword qi, he instantly felt that Lu Changsheng's mana was overwhelmingly powerful and domineering, even more so than Lu Miaoge's mana. He marveled internally at what cultivation technique Lu Changxing practiced to possess such tyrannical mana and sword qi. Had it not been for this treatment, he truly wouldn't have known the extent of Lu Changsheng's combat power, thinking that Lu Changsheng's true skills lay in talismans. Now, it seemed, Lu Changxing hadn't fully wielded his power against the 3 foundation establishment cultivators from the Yu family back then. Sister Miaoge, use Taiyi True Water to protect Uncle's meridians. Lu Changxing carefully removed some of the residual corpse poison from Lu Yuanzhong's organs with the 7 luminary sword qi, but the corpse poison had lingered for years, like a disease in the bone, quite troublesome to handle. If the sword qi was too fierce, it could easily harm Lu Yuanzhong. Sarch ** the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Alright. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoge immediately circulated her mana, her palms radiating blue halos, enveloping Lu Yuanzhong's organs with condensed Taiyi True Water. In this manner, the two of them worked together to drive the poison out of Lu Yuanzhong. Yet Lu Yuanzhong's condition was indeed troublesome. Even Lu Changxing dared only to remove some surface remnants of the corpse poison, unable to thoroughly cleanse the deep-seated poison. Uncle, you should focus on recuperating for a few days. When the situation improves a bit more, I will try to drive the poison out further. An hour later, Lu Changxing withdrew his hand, exhaling deeply, and spoke to Lu Yuanzhong. His 7 luminary sword qi detox, while effective, was somewhat akin to a painful remedy, with a risk of damaging the organs. Changxing, Miaoge, thank you for your hard work, Lu Yuanzhong said solemnly. After the battle at Blackwater Pool, he thought his life wouldn't last much longer, but now, the Lu family not only gained Lu Miaoge, a foundation establishment great cultivator, but together, they were also able to address his corpse poison. In his view, even if they could not fully eradicate it, living a few more decades was worth it. Uncle, you're being too polite, Lu Changxing said with a smile. He and Lu Miaoge decided to stay at Qingzhou Mountain temporarily, doing their best to address Lu Yuanzhong's condition. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 260, Giving Birth to a Spiritual Body, Double Lottery Draw, Shiyu. Clouds embrace the light of Yuer, casting the shadow of a colorful cloud upon the ground. To those on earth, it appears the moon rests among the clouds as they wrap around each other, coexisting in reliance. Therefore, to achieve the essence of the supreme forgetful love technique, one must aspire to become heartless and forget emotion, yet one must first face the emotional trials, joy, sorrow, separation, and reunion, to gain a profound enlightenment and a deep understanding of the mysteries of forgetting emotion. Previously, your teacher had asked Elder Yun to refine the red dust elixir, hoping that with its aid, you would comprehend the chaos of mortal life and could skip this step. But now it seems that, in the end, you must rely on yourself. Yun Wansheng uttered these words. Although she had not practiced the supreme forgetful love technique herself, as a nascent soul immortal, her vision was naturally exceptional. She knew the profound mysteries of the supreme forgetful love technique. To face the emotional trials. Xiao Xia naturally knew what it meant to face emotional trials. It meant experiencing worldly love, joy, sorrow, separation, and reunion. However, as she practiced the supreme forgetful love technique, she could feel herself becoming more and more indifferent. Rarely moved by emotions or disturbed by feelings. Under such circumstances, to experience joy, sorrow, separation, and reunion was extremely difficult. As for love, having practiced the supreme forgetful love technique, Xiao Xie no longer knew what love was. Shiyu, if you cannot succeed, then you need not continue practicing the supreme forgetful love technique. To indulge in such a cultivation technique without success may lead you astray into a demonic path, wasting your potential. With your talent and aptitude, even without practicing the supreme forgetful love technique, you can still build a flawless Tao foundation. Yun Wanshang spoke, saying so. She had been hesitant at first to allow Xiao Xie to practice the supreme forgetful love technique. But 5 years ago, after undergoing an emotional trial herself, her mindset and thoughts also changed. She gradually realized that emotional trials were not so easily overcome. One lapse could ensnare one completely. After being silent for a long while, Xiao Xie softly said, "Master, I wish to try again. I will give you 3 more years. If you do not succeed within this time, you will give up the supreme forgetful love technique," said Yun Wanshang to her disciple. "You shall heed Master's words." In Xiao Xie's cool eyes, a gentle and lively smile appeared. Half a year later. Qingzhou Valley. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoyan supported Lu Miaoga outside the birthing room. Lu Yuanding was also nearby. The family head paced back and forth. He clenched and unclenched his fists, his expression extremely tense. The reason was simple. Lu Miaohuan was about to give birth. Father-in-law, with Miaohuan's 6th level energy refinement cultivation level, there should be no problems, Lu Changxing consoled, seeing the family head for the first time with such an expression. Lu Yuanding nodded. But he still focused on the birthing room, filled with anxiety. Seeing this, Lu Changxing didn't know what else to say. Saying too much would seem as if he, as a husband and soon-to-be father, did not care for his wife and child. Suddenly, "Wah!" a loud cry of an infant burst forth from the room. It caused everyone outside to shudder and their faces to beam with joy. At that moment, Lu Changxing felt a strong surge within him, an indescribable sensation. Simultaneously, 2 system notifications sounded in his mind. Congratulations to the host for fathering 20 children with spiritual roots. You have earned 1 chance to draw a lottery. Congratulations to the host for the first birth of a child with a spiritual body. You have earned 1 chance to draw a lottery. What, a spiritual body? Hearing the notifications, Lu Changsheng's heart was overwhelmed, and he was ecstatic. He hadn't expected the child born of Lu Miaohuan to not only have a spiritual root but also a spiritual body. A spiritual body was 1 in 10,000. At the current stage, he had never even dreamed that any of his children might possess a spiritual body. Having a spiritual root was already more than enough for him. But unexpectedly, the surprise was so unforeseen. The 90th child was the first to be born with a spiritual body. Seeing Lu Changsheng's excited and ecstatic demeanor, Lu Yuanding nodded approvingly, thinking Lu Changsheng wasn't so bad after all. In seeing such joy and excitement on the face of his son-in-law while his daughter gave birth, it showed he cherished and adored Lu Miaohuan. It's born, Changsheng, quick, go in and take a look," urged Lu Yuanding to Lu Changsheng. Without checking the system for his child's spiritual root and spiritual body details, Lu Changsheng immediately pushed open the door and entered. "Congratulations, son-in-law, it's a young master," the midwife said to Lu Changsheng, beaming with happiness. Good, Lu Changsheng nodded happily, handing out 2 spirit stones as a token of celebration, and then he approached the bed. Looking at Lu Miaohuan, who was a bit weak from holding the child, he took her hand and said, "Huan, you've worked hard." Lu Changsheng, "It hurt a lot," Lu Miaohuan said with a look of grievance as soon as she saw Lu Changsheng. "It's my fault, letting you suffer," Lu Changsheng immediately soothed. Then he looked at the child and said, "This is our child, so adorable. Ordinary children are all wrinkled at birth." But Lu Changxing knew that children born to cultivators were different, with skin smooth and radiant, never wrinkled. Such children, even without a spiritual root, would be martial prodigies if they practiced martial arts in the future. "He, so tiny," Lu Miaohuan said, smiling happily as she teased their little one in her arms. The baby didn't cry but peered around with round, curious eyes, gazing at the world. "Let's go see father-in-law," suggested Lu Changxing. Not wanting to keep Lu Yuanding waiting outside any longer, the couple carried the child and stepped out of the room. "Oh, my dear grandchild, let me have a look." Lu Yuanding, who had been waiting impatiently outside, was thrilled to see Lu Changxing and Lu Miaohuan with the baby and eagerly moved closer to hold the child, his eyes crinkling with a smile. Chapter 261, Giving Birth to a Spiritual Body, Double Lottery Draw. He bore none of the composure that the patriarch of the Lu family usually displayed. He reached out to touch and pinch the baby's small face, causing the infant to cry out with a wah. "Ha ha ha, you Shu, Huaner's child is born. Your grandson is born, did you hear that?" Lu Yuanding, however, started laughing, his eyes moistening as he did. Hearing this, everyone knew that Lu Yuanding was missing his wife, the mother of Lu Miaohuan and Lu Miaoga. Oh, there, don't cry, don't cry." Lu Yuanding began to soothe the child again. "Changxing, let's name the child Qing Shan," Lu Yuanding said aloud. He had previously mentioned the naming of the child. Thinking of the names for the children of Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan. A boy would be named Qing Shan, and a girl, Qing Zhu. "As father-in-law wishes." Lu Changxing nodded. He had been through so many names already. He wasn't particularly concerned about naming, feeling that it was all the same regardless of who chose it. He also knew that the name Lu Yuanding had chosen carried the meaning of Qingzhou Mountain. In this manner, with everyone making merry and soothing the baby, Lu Changxing finally found some free time after dinner. System. Lu Changxing entered the study and silently called out in his mind. Name, Lu Changxing. Identity, son-in-law of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. Cultivation level, 8th level energy refinement. Lifespan, 29/155. Talents, 6th grade spiritual root. Gingjin body constitution, medium grade spiritual body. Cultivation techniques, 100 refinements treasure body art. 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture. Yin-yang harmony technique. Immortal beauty technique. Spells, 7 luminaries sword beam. 7 luminaries sword shield. 7 luminaries sword flight. Items, golden light brick talisman treasure. Black dragon magical bead. Book of malevolent curses and fates. Life substituting talisman. Profound origin bead. 2nd rank puppet. Skills, talisman making. 2nd rank. Puppetry. 2nd rank. Spiritual pets. 9 netherhound. Peach blossom goo. Descendants. 90/97. Gingjin body constitution. Is this my child's spiritual body? Lu Changxing saw that an additional Gingjin body constitution was listed under his own talents. Immediately, he knew this was his son, Lu Qingshan's spiritual body. He instantly looked toward the descendants section, his spirit stirring slightly. Name, Lu Qingshan. Lifespan, 1/84. Talents, 6th grade spiritual root. Gingjin body constitution, medium grade spiritual body. Cultivation level, none, as expected. Lu Changxing saw the panel for his son and inwardly said as expected. Not only did he possess a 6th grade spiritual root, but also the Gingjin body constitution. The Gingjin body constitution is one of the more common types among the 5 elements spiritual body. I wonder which attribute my son's spiritual root leans towards. If the spiritual root also leans toward the metal attribute, even with a 6th grade spiritual root, as long as he cultivates metal attribute cultivation techniques, his cultivation speed will not be any weaker than those with higher grade spiritual roots. Lu Changxing felt a surge of excitement and joy. Out of curiosity about spiritual bodies and because of Xia Zizhu's spiritual body, he had looked through a lot of information about them. He knew some of the more common spiritual bodies. This Gingjin body constitution was one of them. Although it wasn't considered a rare spiritual body, it was still a spiritual body. Knowing that this type of spiritual body, when paired with a spiritual root of the same attribute and cultivating metal attribute cultivation techniques, could match the cultivation speed of a higher grade spiritual root. Moreover, it didn't just enhance the cultivation speed. Cultivating the corresponding attribute techniques, spells, and divine skills would also be more powerful, surpassing those of the same rank. It would be best if it's a metal attribute spiritual root, but it doesn't matter if it's not. Moreover, I have the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, so there's no need to worry about any attribute of cultivation techniques unless my son has a mutant spiritual root. Lu Changxing exhaled softly. There was now an added anticipation for the future of this child. He was the first prodigy of the Lu family. All the children before had lower-grade spiritual roots. This one not only has a middle-grade spiritual root, but also possesses a spiritual body. Immediately after, Lu Changxing began his cultivation in a seated position. He personally experienced the effects of this Gingjin body constitution. After a long while. Is it because the child has just been born, and the spiritual body is still growing? After briefly cultivating, Lu Changxing could feel his intake and outflow of spiritual energy during qi refinement was smoother with the metal attribute. But the effect was not as astounding or transformative as one might imagine. He guessed in his heart that it was because the child was newly born. Like the spiritual root, this Gingjin body constitution was still growing. It needed to reach a certain age to be fully developed. I cultivate the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, and this Gingjin body constitution mainly enhances the lethality of my spells somewhat, not contributing much to cultivation itself. The quickness of metal attribute spiritual energy might even affect the balance I maintain while cultivating the other attributes. Unless in the future I have more children, providing me with one of each of the 5 elements spiritual body types, Lu Changxing mused to himself. He knew that such a spiritual body is best paired with corresponding attribute cultivation techniques. If one cultivates other attribute techniques, it might even be detrimental. And the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture that he cultivated required maintaining a balance among the 7 attributes of yin, yang, and the 5 elements. Lu Changxing didn't pay too much attention to this. Thinking of the 2 additional draw chances he had, he silently invoked, System Draw. Immediately, the system's spinning wheel appeared. Start the draw. Seeing the roulette wheel, Lu Changxing didn't overthink it. With a thought, he directly initiated the draw. Suddenly, a beam of golden light swiftly moved around the wheel, eventually settling on elixir medicines. Ding! Congratulations, host, on obtaining a 3rd-rank coagulation crystal elixir. Reward has been issued to the system space, available for host to check at any time. An elixir medicine icon emerged from the spinning wheel, accompanied by a system notification. Coagulation crystal elixir. Lu Changxing was surprised to see what he had drawn. He naturally knew what the coagulation crystal elixir was. It was somewhat similar to the foundation establishment elixir. But it was many times more precious than a foundation establishment elixir. An elixir that could help foundation establishment cultivators increase their chances of reaching core formation and enhance the quality of their core. For most cultivators, even a foundation establishment elixir was a luxury, hard to come by. And this coagulation crystal elixir that aids in core formation, its preciousness could be imagined. Elixir medicine, coagulation crystal elixir, quality, 3rd rank, description. When a cultivator at the peak of foundation establishment attempts core formation, consuming this can increase the chances of core formation by 30% and also improve the quality of the core formed. Within the system space, information about the coagulation crystal elixir appeared. 30% increase in the chances of forming a core, and it even has some benefits to the core's quality. It seems this coagulation crystal elixir is just like the lifespan extension pill I drew before, belonging to the supreme category, which is why it has such effects, Lu Changxing thought. With this coagulation crystal elixir, I won't have to worry about core formation once I have established my foundation, Lu Changxing said with a joyful expression. He had initially wanted to draw a foundation establishment elixir. Unexpectedly, his draw turned out to be a coagulation crystal elixir, which was of a higher grade and more precious than a foundation establishment elixir. But core formation is still quite far off for me, Lu Changxing sighed lightly, deciding not to dwell further on the coagulation crystal elixir. He planned to just store it in the system space. He would take it out when the time came to use it. Continue with the draw. Lu Changxing looked at the system's spinning wheel in front of him and proceeded with the draw. This was his first time doing consecutive draws. Having just drawn a coagulation crystal elixir, his heart was filled with the expectation of drawing something that he could actually use. Even though coagulation crystal elixirs were precious, at his current stage, they were not immediately usable and would just collect dust. As the draw continued, the golden light on the spinning wheel moved, eventually stopping at the pets category. Chapter 262, Li Feiyu leaves, the Lu family ancestor passes away. _1, ding. Congratulations, host, for obtaining a 6-winged golden silkworm larva. The reward has been delivered to the system space. The host can check at any time. A golden insect pattern with a shining glow and a pair of wings on its back emerged from the big roulette wheel, accompanied by the sound of a system notification. 6-winged golden silkworm. Lu Changxing looked at the reward drawn by the system, his eyebrows raised. He hadn't expected that among pet beasts, there were not only beasts but also bugs. This means that the pet lottery encompasses everything: feathers, fur, scales, insects, plants, and so on. If that's the case, in the future if I draw a plant demon pet, I won't have to worry about the spirit plants for cultivating the heavenly longevity technique. Lu Changxing thought to himself. He had not forgotten the heavenly longevity technique he had acquired from Xiaolong. He had always thought that once he had the strength and conditions, he would have his wives and children plant trees for cultivation. Without further thought, Lu Changxing's mental spirit gave a slight stir as he looked towards the 6-winged golden silkworm he had just drawn. Magical bug, 6-winged golden silkworm, rank, heaven rank superior, description. One of the ancient rare insect species, lays eggs once every 100 years, hatches into larvae after another century. Newly hatched larvae have only 1 pair of wings, but mature ones have 3. They are fearless against divine skills and magic, but are ferocious, with low intelligence and difficult to tame. SSS, a heaven rank superior magical bug? Even a rank higher than the 9 Netherhound's bloodline. I wonder how long it will take for this 6-winged golden silkworm to mature and develop 6 wings. Lu Changxing considered the information about the 6-winged golden silkworm, thinking to himself. What concerned him most was how long it would take for the 6-winged golden silkworm to grow. After all, at the moment, the most challenging part about pet beasts was their cultivation phase. Cultivation times spanning dozens or hundreds of years were truly testing. For example, the 9 Netherhound had been at first grade primary level for many years. Only about half a year ago, when Lu Changxing finally had some surplus funds, he bought some spiritual beast pills for Lu Pingan to feed it regularly. It's now almost reaching the first grade middle stage. Regarding the system's description that the 6-winged golden silkworm is ferocious, unintelligent, and hard to tame, Lu Changxing didn't take it to heart at all. What does difficulty in taming have to do with him? Extract. With a flicker of his mental spirit, Lu Changxing took the 6-winged golden silkworm out of the system space. Instantly, a golden silkworm about an inch long, as thick as a little finger, appeared. This silkworm had a pair of thin, cicad-like wings behind it. The wings shimmered with a faint golden light and emanated a violent and murderous aura. The 6-winged golden silkworm lays eggs every 100 years, hatches in another 100, and when the larvae hatch, they are as hard as iron, comparable to magic artifacts, and immune to primary level techniques. To grow from a larva to a 4-winged silkworm, it takes 200 years, equivalent to 3rd rank strength. To grow from 4 wings to 6 wings, corresponding to 4th rank peak, it needs 1,000 years. Lu Changxing looked at the 6-winged golden silkworm in his hand and developed a general understanding of its condition. Impressive, indeed. Just hatched larvae had almost the strength of the first grade later stages. After raising it for a few decades, it would have the strength of a second-rank foundation establishment. Once it went through its first metamorphosis and grew its second pair of wings, it would have third-rank strength. Another 1,000 years of growth to sprout the third pair of wings and it would be at the peak of fourth rank, comparable to fifth rank. For a demon beast, this time frame is not long. But for Lu Changsheng, it was way too long. Pet beasts are of little use to me at my current stage, they can't directly enhance my strength. However, if these pet beasts can be cultivated and grow, they will all be formidable indeed, probably invincible at their respective ranks. Lu Changsheng sighed slightly, shaking his head. He then tried to sense the six-winged golden silkworm before him. Just like with the 9 netherhound and the peach blossom goo, he felt a connection with this six-winged golden silkworm. But just as the system description said, this six-winged golden silkworm was ferocious, not intelligent, and it was impossible to communicate properly. He could only transmit some simple commands. For example, to kill. If it weren't for the system having tamed it for me, this six-winged golden silkworm would probably kill anyone it saw. For now, let's just raise it. If I can find the corresponding methods to control and tame insects, the growth of this six-winged golden silkworm could be sped up quite a bit. Lu Changsheng thought to himself without lingering further. He then put the six-winged golden silkworm into the spiritual pet bag that held the Lockhart goo. The Lockhart goo, which looked listless and as if it was on its last breath, suddenly became alert as if it was frightened by the six-winged golden silkworm. Seeing this scene, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but think of Meng Xiaochan. She was clearly proficient in the art of insect control. He wondered if she knew how to cultivate the six-winged golden silkworm. If there were corresponding cultivation methods, then its growth rate could be greatly increased. But Lu Changsheng didn't ponder on it too much. His only connection to her was through the Lockhart goo. He had no idea where she had gone now. Moreover, for a rare magical insect like the six-winged golden silkworm, it was feared that cultivation methods were hard to come by. Jin Kingdom, the southern border mountains. In the bleak and wild swamps of the mountains, a girl in a purple dress commanded a swarm of insects to kill several snake demon beasts. After letting the swarm of insects and a blood-colored spider consume the bodies of the snake demon beasts, the girl continued on her way. When she emerged from the swamp and saw the peak shrouded in purple-black clouds, mysterious and towering into the clouds ahead, her face showed a look of surprise. Grandma said that my great-grandma was once the heaven spider emissary of the 5 poisons cult, one of the 3 great demon sects of the southern border of Jin Kingdom. The 5 poisons cult is skilled in the arts of goo poison and spiritual beasts. I have the 1,000 poisons body and can hold great-grandma's token to join the 5 poisons cult. If only I hadn't lost the Lockhart goo, with it, I might have been able to become the holy maiden of the 5 poisons cult. Chapter 263, Li Feiyu departs, the Lu family ancestor enters eternal rest. Meng Xiaochan looked at the spiritual vein mountain in front of her, feeling a sense of regret in her heart. The thought of the Lockhart goo caused a slight throb in her heart. She remembered that handsome young man with the upright figure. It said that the unique phoenix goo of the 5 poisons cult can cultivate the phoenix nirvana technique, which allows one to undergo a nirvana of fire, to be born and extinguished in the blink of an eye, washing away all the worldly impurities. I wonder if it could remove the effects of the Lockhart goo. This thought suddenly occurred to Meng Xiaochan. But as soon as the idea surfaced, her heart fluttered uneasily. She shook her head gently, dispersing the thought. Who goes there? In front of the towering mountain gate, 2 disciples in black stood watch. Seeing Meng Xiaochan, they stepped forward to inquire. The 5 Poisons God Mountain was the domain of the 5 Poisons sect, naturally not just anyone could approach freely. My name is Meng Xiaochan, a descendant of the heavenly spider envoy of the 5 Poisons sect. Meng Xiaochan produced a token from her sleeve and handed it to one of the disciples. A descendant of the heavenly spider envoy. The 2 disciples examined the token, exchanging glances. One of them promptly said, "Fellow Taoist, please wait here, I shall go and report this. About the time it takes an incense stick to burn." A purple escape light shot down from the Five Poisons Mountain, appearing before Meng Xiaochan in the blink of an eye. Disciple pays respect to the heavenly spider emissary. The remaining purple-clothed disciple rushed to bow and pay respects upon seeing the newcomer. So you are the descendant of my master. The newcomer was a 28 or 29-year-old woman in purple. Her face was stunningly beautiful and seductive, her skin as fair as snow. A pair of long, shapely legs, full and symmetrical. 2 crystal-clear feet, white throughout without a single flaw, like jade carvings, they seemed like pieces of art that one couldn't help but want to hold and carefully admire. Hers was a figure that seemed frail and slender in her sumptuous purple gauze, curvaceous in all the right spots yet appearing as if she couldn't withstand a strong wind, endlessly alluring. Her narrow, phoenix-like eyes were deep and dark, emanating a bizarre charm as she surveyed Meng Xiaochan before her. Beneath the corners of her phoenix eyes, a single tear mole added a pity-invoking allure to her already enchanting appearance. Junior greets senior. Meng Xiaochan respectfully nodded. She took some insect eggs from her storage bag, then released a blood-colored spider. Blood jade spider, it looks like you are indeed the master's descendant. The woman in purple slightly nodded, her expression turned much softer as she said, "You've come to Five Poisons Mountain. Are you looking to join our Five Poisons sect?" "Yes, senior, I wish to join Five Poisons Mountain," Meng Xiaochan said respectfully. "Since you are the master's descendant, would you be willing to be my disciple?" The woman in purple looked at Meng Xiaochan, saying with a smile, "Xiaochan is willing." Meng Xiaochan responded immediately upon hearing this. "Good, from today on, you are now a disciple of Nangong Mili," Nangong Mili said with a light laugh. Afterward, Nangong Mili swept her sleeves and brought Meng Xiaochan into the Five Poisons Mountain. 10 days after Lu Miaohuan gave birth. The child in Lu Miaoyage's belly was also born. It was a girl. This child also had a spiritual root. But it was only a 7th grade spiritual root. Since Lu Miaohuan's child had come first, it had raised Lu Changsheng's expectations. Seeing that the child only had a 7th grade spiritual root, there was a slight sense of disappointment in his heart. However, he immediately adjusted his mindset. After all, having a spiritual root was already quite impressive. How could everyone be exceptionally talented? This must be the result of good breeding, Lu Changsheng thought to himself. The fact that both Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan had given birth to children, although luck played a part, also showed that the higher the cultivation level of the parents, the higher the quality of the spiritual root, and thus the higher the probability of their children possessing spiritual roots. The quality of the spiritual root was also likely to be better. After Lu Miaoga gave birth, Lu Changsheng stayed in Qingzhou Mountain for 3 days before returning to Nine Dragons Market. Since both women had given birth, he had been on leave for a while, so it was not good to delay any further. Back in Nine Dragons Market, Lu Changsheng searched for some books about insects. He also purchased various spiritual materials to try and nourish the 6-winged golden silkworm, and pondered what to feed it. Blood. The 6-winged golden silkworm could consume blood, whether it was meat or vegetables. This made Lu Changsheng think to himself that the 6-winged golden silkworm was truly of a brutal nature. 2 months later, Lu Changsheng returned to the mundane world, to visit his wives and children. That day, Li Feiyu also came to bid farewell to Lu Changsheng. He indicated that he was ready to leave Rui County City and wanted to make a name for himself in the cultivation world. "Feiyu, where do you plan to go for your cultivation journey?" Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng asked. He had previously mentioned Red Leaf Valley Market and said it would be built and open in about half a year. But seeing Li Feiyu's demeanor, he clearly was not planning to go to Red Leaf Valley Market. Lu Changsheng had a rough understanding of his friend's thoughts. He knew Li Feiyu had his own pride and stubbornness. He did not want to rely on others for an easy life. Knowing that going to Red Leaf Valley Market, there would be little chance for encounters or achievements. "I haven't decided yet, but am planning to check out Azure Phoenix Immortal City," Li Feiyu said with a carefree and casual look. Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Lu Changxing paused for a moment when he heard this. He certainly knew of Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Jiang Country had 3 great immortal cities. Zhouxiao Immortal City in the central part, the number 1 immortal city in Jiang Country, with incredibly prosperous cultivator marketplaces. Great Dream Immortal City located at the northern border, backed by the Great Dream Marsh. This marsh was boundless, shrouded in mist all year round, blocking the divine sense of cultivators. It was said that even nascent soul immortals who entered would never come back. Therefore, no one knew what lay beyond the Great Dream Marsh. Some rumors said it was a forbidden land of absolute death. Others claimed it was an even vaster and more affluent cultivation world. Chapter 264, Li Feiyu departs, the Lu family ancestor passes away. The Azure Phoenix Immortal City is located on the southern border of Jiang Country, close to the Myriad Beasts mountain range, and borders Yu Country. Not only can one go to the mountain range to temper oneself and hunt demon beasts for money, but one can also go to Yu Country to interact with Yu Country cultivators. At ordinary times, many Yu Country cultivators gather in the Azure Phoenix Immortal City, which is considered a holy land for loose cultivators. Many loose cultivators who aspire to make a name for themselves will go to the Azure Phoenix Immortal City to take their chances. But likewise, such a place is incomparably dangerous. The level of danger is estimated to be tens of times that of the 9 Dragons Market. Every year, countless cultivators are buried in the wilderness, unknown. The cultivation world is so vast, one must see it. I heard the Azure Phoenix Immortal City is a holy land for loose cultivators, and as a loose cultivator myself, naturally, I should go and see. I'm not saying I'll make something big out of it, but at least I'll witness the cultivation world. Li Feiyu said with a smirk. He had made inquiries about the Azure Phoenix Immortal City and naturally knew its dangers. But danger and opportunity coexist. For an ordinary loose cultivator, if one wishes to rise above others, this is the best place. Otherwise, with his 7th grade spiritual root, rolling in the secular world or small marketplaces, it would be difficult for him to achieve much in this lifetime. There's a year and a half left in our 10-year pact, will you come then? Lu Changxing inquired. Previously, Hong Yi had written to inquire of Xiao Xia, Zhao Qingqing, and Han Lin about the 10-year pact. All 3 had agreed, expressing that they would get together at that time. I'm not planning to head directly to the Azure Phoenix Immortal City, but instead to travel around first. After attending the pact, then I'll truly head to the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Li Feiyu didn't hide his thoughts either. He knew the Azure Phoenix Immortal City was extremely dangerous. And he wouldn't just head there blindly. Although he had gained considerable understanding of the cultivation world over the years, he had not truly stepped into it. Most of his time was spent on Qingzhou Mountain, and his knowledge of the cultivation world wasn't direct enough. He planned to spend this next year and a half facing and adapting to the cruelty of the cultivation world. Changxing, if I don't come back by then, please help take care of my home. Li Feiyu continued to speak. He had said this before. But now, just before leaving, he said it again. I've agreed to this, but I believe that situation will not arise. Lu Changxing nodded slightly, without the mood for jokes. He took out a stack of talismans, a first-grade middle-grade puppet, 300 spirit stones, and a storage bag. Feiyu, take care of yourself, keep these things for self-defense. When you return, well, drink and revel together. Lu Changxing said this. Li Feiyu was his first friend in this world. He had even saved his life once. Now that the other was about to venture out for training experiences, one could imagine how hard and dangerous it would be. Naturally, he hoped his good brother would have smooth sailing. It's too precious, I can't accept it. Li Feiyu immediately shook his head when he saw the nearly 100 talismans, a puppet, and so many spirit stones. When he was in Qingzhou Mountain, relying on his own hard work, he could earn 5 or 6 spirit stones a month. Now in the secular world, by teaching Lu Changxing's children and working with Hong Yi, he earned an average of about 10 spirit stones a month. What Lu Changxing was offering was a considerable sum of money for him. If you still consider me a brother, then keep it. I can afford it now, and you will need some magic artifacts when you go out. Use these spirit stones to buy a few artifacts for self-defense. Lu Changxing spoke with a solemn expression. Li Feiyu was only at the 4th level of his qi refinement. Even though he had the strength of a martial Dao innate grandmaster. But against a cultivator in the energy refinement middle stage wielding magic artifacts, he could easily suffer. If he had talismans and magic artifacts by his side, he would be much safer. He didn't offer his own magic artifacts because, apart from the green face sword and a few others, all were of high grade or exquisite quality, which Li Feiyu couldn't utilize. Okay, I'll just owe you then. Li Feiyu, looking at Lu Changxing's expression, took a deep breath and nodded earnestly. Then he said with a carefree attitude, "Don't worry." Li Feiyu began adventuring through the world at the age of 12, traveling to all corners. It's not that easy for me to stumble and fall. Just to repay this debt, I will also make sure to live well. Li Feiyu said this. Subsequently, the two chatted for a long time. More than a decade of cultivation life had many memories worth reflecting upon. Especially since this might be the last time the two of them talked. The next day, Li Feiyu called Hong Yi over, and the three of them had a meal together before parting ways. At the moment of departure, Hong Yi also presented a lower-grade flying sword to Li Feiyu, advising him to take good care of himself. Sigh. Lu Changxing watched Li Feiyu's retreating figure and sighed deeply. His heart was laden with the heavy feeling associated with lives' separations and death's finality. With the talisman and puppet by his side, and relying on Feiyu's own strength and means, he should be able to fight against cultivators at the energy refinement late stage, or at least escape. Moreover, in the cultivation world, anything can happen. From cliff diving to find treasures to accidentally entering the secret realm of an ancient cultivator's cave, who knows, Feiyu might just stumble upon an opportunity. Lu Changxing consoled himself in his heart. He didn't indulge too much in sorrow or sentimentality. He discussed with Hong Yi about the Red Leaf Valley Market. It would be almost half a year before it would be completed and open. He had already alerted the Lu family about the matter of the market's entry spots. However, as for the shops, only ordinary ones with mediocre locations were available to them. The desirable shop locations had been mostly retained by the 4 major families or allocated to other powers. Lu Changxing learned that to establish the Red Leaf Valley Market, the Lu, Bai, Yu, and Jing families had all invested a great deal of thought and energy. Not only had they made expenditures to appease Qingyun sect, but they had also semi-gifted some shops and cave dwellings to certain powers. To this, Hong Yi minded not the slightest. Because for the better shops, the Rui Marquis mansion lacked enough spirit stones and simply couldn't afford them. If it weren't for the light cast by Lu Changxing, they might not have even secured such an ordinary shop. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months had passed. On this day, the second elder sought out Lu Changxing and informed him that he must immediately return to the family. The Lu family ancestor had passed away. The ancestor has passed away. In the past, Lu Changxing had seen hints of the deathly aura upon the Lu family ancestor and knew his end was near. But he hadn't expected it to come so swiftly, so suddenly. Recalling how just a year ago this elder had presided over his wedding, he couldn't help but feel emotional. The ancestor had always hoped to see the Red Leaf Valley Market completed, to take a good look at it, but sadly, he didn't make it to that day. The second elder said with a sad expression. Those high within the Lu family ranks understood the Lu family ancestors' health more acutely than Lu Changxing. After the great battle at Red Leaf Valley, the Lu family ancestor knew his days were numbered and had started making arrangements for after his demise. His only lingering regret was his wish to see the Red Leaf Valley Market. Yet in the end, the Lu family ancestor did not live to see that day. Soon after, Lu Changxing followed the second elder and several Lu family disciples back to Qingzhou Mountain. The Lu family disciples gradually returned to Qingzhou Mountain. All over the mountain, everyone's mood was somber with sorrow. Cultivation families are maintained through the bonds of blood and kinship. All of the family disciples, from a young age nurtured by the family, practicing cultivation, marrying, bearing children, spreading branches and leaves, all on this land. And the Lu family ancestor was the sky within the hearts of all Lu family disciples. Now with the ancestors passing, it was natural for all to be engulfed in profound grief. Several days later, in the Lu family ancestral hall, alas, the ancestor lived a life of diligence, dedicated to our family. Now that his soul has returned to the heavens and earth, we the younger generations of the Lu family are filled with inconsolable sorrow. Lu Yuanding mourned with a face full of grief. He spoke of the Lu family ancestors' contributions and merits to the family. After the eulogy was delivered, Lu Yuanzhong stepped forward. He escorted the Lu family ancestors' spirit tablet into the ancestral hall, then lit 3 sticks of incense, and bowed solemnly. He announced loudly, Lu Yuanzhong of the Lu family bids farewell to the ancestor as his soul returns to the heavens and earth. The Lu family disciples bid farewell to the ancestor as his soul returns to the heavens and earth. The Lu family disciples bid farewell to the ancestor as his soul returns to the heavens and earth. The Lu family disciples bid farewell to the ancestor as his soul returns to the heavens and earth. At this moment, all the Lu family disciples together echoed the call, bowing in salute. This must be the transmission of the family bloodline, right? Compared to the Lu's cultivators who are like duckweed in the wind, the Lu family ancestor was able to pass away at home and be buried in the family spirit land, his spirit tablet placed in the ancestral hall with his life's achievements recorded in the family records. His life can be considered fulfilled. After all, not all cultivators can live long and prosperous lives. It is through this manner that one's bloodline, one's spirit, continues to be passed down and endure. Lu Changxing also bowed and chanted along, his emotions stirred. He began to understand why family ties in this world were so deep. On one hand, it's maintained by the bonds of blood and kinship. On the other, it's about how one is irrevocably bound to the family from the moment of birth, bound for life. Within the entire family, everyone is striving for a shared goal, a common belief. Chapter 265, Uncle Returned. _1 Cultivators care less about the trivial formalities of the secular world. After worshipping the spirit tablet of the Lu family ancestor, the ceremony is considered over once everyone has offered 3 sticks of incense. The crowd gradually dispersed. Just as Lu Changxing was about to leave, Lu Yuanding, the newly advanced ancestor, called out to him. Changxing, how is your cultivation progressing? Lu Yuanzhong had a scholarly appearance, bearing some resemblance to Lu Yuanding. Lu Changxing also knew that this ancestor Yuanzhong was indeed the blood brother of his father-in-law, Lu Yuanding. Therefore, he should address this ancestor as uncle father-in-law. However, in cultivation families like Qingzhou Mountain, as soon as one succeeds in foundation establishment, their generational status automatically rises to that of an ancestor. Reporting to ancestor, I am currently at the 6th level of qi refinement, and I estimate it will take 3 more years to reach the peak of the 6th level, Lu Changxing replied. That was what Lu Changxing said, having declared 2 years earlier that he was at the 6th level of qi refinement and naturally not daring to overstate his progress. Very good, Lu Yuanzhong commented with a slight nod after hearing this. After giving Lu Changxing a few appraising looks, he took out a jade scroll. I've heard that you have been cultivating the Changchun technique, and this greenwood art is a high-grade cultivation technique treasured by our Lu family. You should take it and cultivate it, Yuanding said. If there's anything you don't understand, you can also ask Yuanding. He cultivates this greenwood art as well, Yuanzhong added. Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised to hear this. He had not expected Lu Yuanzhong to stop him just to give him a cultivation technique. Having been busy in Red Leaf Valley Market over the past year, Lu Changxing had rarely interacted with the newly advanced ancestor. They had only met briefly a couple of times. He hadn't expected that immediately following the death of the Lu family ancestor, the latter would express goodwill toward him. Thank you very much, ancestor. Lu Changxing immediately expressed his gratitude with respect. Although he already possessed the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture and did not need this greenwood art, it was nevertheless a gesture of kindness. After all, To his knowledge, the highest level techniques treasured by the Lu family were a few high-grade cultivation techniques. Now that they're willing to pass on one to him, they have effectively accepted him as one of their own. Remember, this technique is for your cultivation only and must not be passed on, Lu Yuanding cautioned. Ancestor, please rest assured, Changxing understands, Lu Changxing nodded and replied. Having spent so many years in Nine Dragons Market, he had come to understand why the inheritance of techniques in the cultivation world is so scarce and precious. These inheritances originate from immortal sects, families, or loose cultivators. Immortal sects, as the primary suppliers, prohibit the sale of high-grade cultivation techniques and skill inheritances within their territories to continuously harvest excellent disciples and affordable labor. This is why they are forbidden from selling advanced methods. And why would any cultivation family want to sell the very foundation that sustains them? They prefer to abide by this rule, preventing leakages of such inheritances and partaking in the benefits. Loose cultivators are no different. It's improbable for them to selflessly risk censure by selling high-grade techniques. Most choose to deal privately instead. Thus, most loose cultivators who wish to obtain higher-order techniques or inheritances are either reliant on fortunate encounters or, should they possess a decent talent, join a cultivation family or a faction under an immortal sect. This has become an unwritten rule in the cultivation world. Primary-level techniques and first-grade skill inheritances are commonplace and can be purchased with a few spirit stones. But if one wishes to advance further without fortune, they must find a way to join a power and be exploited. This is why the third young master of the Yu family once offered high-grade techniques and insights into foundation establishment to tempt Lu Changxing. All right, you may go about your business now, said Lu Yuanzhong, patting Lu Changxing on the shoulder without much else to add. Yes, ancestor, Lu Changxing replied, bowing slightly before taking his leave. Lu Changxing, Lu Yuanzhong muttered the name to himself as he watched Changsheng's retreating figure, recalling the last wish of the Lu family ancestor and the value he had placed on Changxing. He exhaled softly. 3 days later, the second elder informed Lu Changxing to return to Nine Dragons Market. Changxing, do you want me to look after the spiritual talisman shop? Lu Miaoga asked, holding her daughter, Lu Qingzhu, and speaking softly. Having recovered from childbirth, she was ready to take on some of Lu Changsheng's burdens. No need, Sister Miaoga, you should stay at home and cultivate, and learn talisman making with Grandma. If you go to the marketplace, it will distract you and hinder your cultivation. Besides, Qingzhu is still small and needs your care, Lu Changxing said, pinching his daughter's chubby cheek with a smile. Lu Miaoga's talisman-making skill was currently transitioning from an upper-grade talisman master to a top-level talisman master. Therefore, he did not want his wife to run back and forth between two places and be overburdened. All right, Lu Miaoga replied with a tender smile. Having become a mother, her clear and ethereal countenance was now often adorned with a gentle and maternal smile. She continued, Changxing, the Red Leaf Valley Market will open in a few months. The family plans to open a talisman shop there, and they want me to oversee and manage it. If you find Nine Dragons Market too far, I can go there, and you can take my place in Red Leaf Valley Market, she suggested. Despite being a wife, her disposition remained as gentle as water, nurturing an almost motherly kindness. Sister Miaoga, the Lu family ancestor had given me a shop in Red Leaf Valley, and am planning to set up a talisman shop there, so for Nine Dragons Market, I intend to let Grandma find someone to manage it, Lu Changxing said, pondering slightly. The Lu family ancestor had rewarded him with a shop and a cave dwelling in Red Leaf Valley Market. Now that the market was about to open, Lu Changxing did not want to simply rent out the shop and dwelling. He was thinking of establishing another talisman shop there. Lu Changxing went next door to Gao He's house and knocked on the door. Uncle Lu. The door was opened by a 17 or 18-year-old girl with a delicate visage, dressed in a moon-white embroidered garment. It was Gao He's daughter, Gao Xiaoya. The former little Lolita had grown into an elegant young lady. Xiaoya, is your dad at home? Lu Changxing asked. He's not, Uncle Lu. Is there something you need from my father? Gao Xiaoya asked, tilting her head. It's nothing urgent. Let him know when he gets back that I have something to discuss with him, Lu Changxing said with a smile. All right, Uncle Lu. Won't you come in for a cup of tea? Gao Xiaoya asked politely. No, I have other matters to attend to, Lu Changxing declined and waved his hand. Gao He only returned home after nightfall. As soon as he got home, he came to inquire about Lu Changsheng's business. Brother Gao, you must have heard of Red Leaf Valley Market, haven't you? Lu Changxing asked. Of course, it's the marketplace established by your Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain, the Yu family from Bai Lake Mountain, the Wugong Ridge Jing family, and the 100 Birds Lake Bai family, Gao He responded, nodding his head. As a talisman master, he also had his own information channels. Therefore, he was aware of the annihilation of Red Leaf Valley and the subsequent transformation into a marketplace by the 4 major families. I am planning to open a talisman shop in Red Leaf Valley Market and wanted to ask if you're interested in coming over as the resident talisman master, Lu Changxing got straight to the point. Although he intended to open a spiritual talisman shop in Red Leaf Valley, having managed a talisman shop in 9 Dragons Market for so many years, he knew that it was difficult to run a shop alone. Especially in the initial stages, there are many tasks that require attention. He alone would definitely be overwhelmed. So, he would undoubtedly need to hire help. Having known Gao He for many years, Lu Changxing was aware that aside from his occasional indulgences and pleasures, his character was reliable. A reliable person indeed. So Lu Changxing thought of hiring Gao He to manage the shop for him. The position of the resident talisman master? Gao He heard this and didn't immediately answer, showing a contemplative expression. He was content with living a stable life. With no ambitious aspirations, he only wished to raise his daughter well and live out his life in peace. Currently a resident talisman master at a spiritual talisman shop in 9 Dragons Market, his life was very stable. Heading to Red Leaf Valley Market would surely be less secure than here. If you are willing, Brother Gao, you only need to manage the shop, create some talismans, and occasionally mentor apprentices. I will mostly stay out of the shop's affairs. In terms of salary, it will be increased by 50% based on your current rate, and additionally, in Red Leaf Valley Market, I have a second-order cave mansion with a spirit vein, which I can rent to you at a base price. This will also greatly improve your and Zioya's cultivation, Lu Changxing continued. Since he was looking to recruit someone, he had to offer a price that was enticing enough, otherwise, why would someone agree to work for him? With you putting it this way, Brother Lu, I don't have any reason to refuse, Gao He said with a beaming smile that made his face even more prosperous. Just the 50% increase in salary was tempting to him. Adding on the second-order cave mansion, he had no reason to refuse at all. For ordinary loose cultivators, aside from joining a force, they generally had no means of securing a second-order mansion. Chapter 267, Uncle returned. Alright, let's settle it like this. The Red Leaf Valley Market will be open in a few more months, and they'll notify Gao He then. Seeing the other party agree, Lu Changxing also nodded. Okay, no problem. Gao He nodded in agreement. Gao He, how are you doing with superior grade talismans now? Lu Changxing inquired. Gao He had also become a superior grade talisman master. But the specifics, he wasn't too clear on. Although he had chatted with Gao He about talismans over the years, it was not exactly frequent. I have about a 50% success rate with golden light barrier talismans. As for nectar talismans, only a 30% success rate, and for escape talismans, merely 10%. Gao He shook his head and sighed. Hearing this, Lu Changxing immediately spoke out, discussing and offering guidance to Gao He about talismans. After all, the man was considered his own family's resident talisman master. So, spending some time guiding him was not a big deal. Additionally, by doing this, it allowed Gao He to serve him better. 3 months flew by in a blink. During this time, the 4th elder also learned of Lu Changsheng's intention to open a talisman shop in Red Leaf Valley. She didn't say much about it, but instead supported Lu Changsheng's idea. After all, with his talisman-making skill, it would indeed be a pity to rent out the shop. She soon arranged for another talisman master to preside over the spiritual talisman shop in Nine Dragons Market. This allowed Lu Changsheng to stop going there and return to Qingzhou Mountain to rest. Qingzhou Valley, inside the practice room. Lu Changsheng sat cross-legged with hands positioned towards the heavens, cultivating. 7 sharp sword chi swirled around him gracefully, making his skin feel cold. Huff. It's almost 3 to 4 months away from the 9th level energy refinement. Lu Changsheng exhaled lightly, concluding today's routine cultivation. He could clearly feel that his spiritual power was likely to reach perfection in a few months, at which point he could challenge the 9th level energy refinement. For him, advancing from the 8th to the 9th level was not an issue. The process was as natural as the flow of water. Leaving the practice room, Lu Changsheng went to his study to draw talismans as usual. After creating 1 supreme talisman and 2 superior grade talismans, Lu Changsheng went to the courtyard to spend time with his wives and children. Lu Qingshan and Lu Qingzhu could now walk. Lu Qingshan, while possessing a spiritual body, seemed no different from any normal child. If anything, he was just more lively and active. This made Lu Changsheng secretly wonder if his son would inherit his mother's personality as he grew up. The black-robed youth stated indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure gradually faded away into nothingness. Young master, when do you plan to embark for Jiang country? The bald man, seeing the youth vanish, immediately turned to Chu Chang'e on the platform, an ingratiating smile spreading across his face. At odds with his ghastly appearance, the smile created a jarring contrast. Jiang country. Chu Chang'e paused slightly, his eyes flickering with an unusual light. His husky voice then declared, now. Chapter 268, Advanced Draw, Heavenly Spiritual Treasure. _ 10 days later. Red Leaf Valley Market. After its reconstruction into a marketplace, Red Leaf Valley still cultivated its mountains of red leaves and spiritual fields. Because the market had just opened, it was quite desolate. There were only people from the 4 major families and a few other forces. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge strolled through the market, familiarizing themselves with the situation. Although the mountains were still covered with red leaves, the interior layout had been reorganized, completely different from its original appearance. The planned layout bore some resemblance to the Nine Dragons Market. It was divided into 4 areas, east, west, south, and north, designated for residential and commercial use, respectively. Shops used by the major families were basically located in the best spots within the commercial area. The location of Lu Changsheng's shop wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. On the commercial street. When purchasing the shop from Hong Yi, Lu Changsheng had also become aware of its price. It was worth roughly 3,000 spirit stones. In a few years, maybe even a few decades, once the market's foot traffic increased, its value could potentially rise substantially. As for Hong Yi's shop, its location was quite ordinary. It was situated on a rather secluded street. One reason was that only shops at this level were still available for external sale. Another was that the Rui Marquis mansion had limited financial resources. They could at most bring out 1,800 spirit stones. While wandering with Lu Miaoge, Lu Changsheng received a transmission from Gao He. Sister Miaoge, I have something to take care of, I need to go over there, Lu Changsheng said to Lu Miaoge. Emicham, go ahead. Lu Miaoge replied, her white dress and gentle demeanor giving her an air of serenity. Suddenly, Lu Changsheng went to meet Gao He at the market entrance and brought him to his own shop. This shop wasn't big, barely 200 square meters in size, with a 3-story structure. Brother Gao, this shop will be in your care from now on, Lu Changsheng said to Gao He. For now, I can supply 3 supreme talismans and some superior grade talismans every month. As for stock and inventory, Lu Changsheng explained the shop's essentials to Gao He. Having spent many years in the Nine Dragons market, his experiences hadn't been in vain. He was quite familiar with the operations of a spirit talisman shop. "Brother Lu, this shop isn't owned by the Lu family, it's yours?" Gao he asked in astonishment after hearing Lu Changsheng's words. He had originally thought that Lu Changsheng invited him to Red Leaf Valley Market to act as the resident talisman master on behalf of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. To his surprise, Lu Changsheng had opened his own shop. This left him both astonished and envious. Many loose cultivators spend their entire lives in the cultivation world and still may not be able to afford a residence in a marketplace. Most can only choose to return to the secular world to settle down. Even for him, an advanced-level talisman master, buying property in a larger market wasn't easy. A shop like Lu Changsheng's could support 3 generations if Red Leaf Market didn't run into trouble, and that wasn't an exaggeration. "Heh, that's right, the Lu family also has a shop here," Lu Changsheng chuckled. "However, this shop isn't owned by the Lus, it's my personal business. Therefore, I won't have much time to manage it, which is why I requested your assistance," he continued, not hiding the truth. He planned to spend his time cultivating in Qingzhou Mountain like the 4th elder, accompanying his wife and children. After completing the talisman-making tasks for the Lu family each month and supplying the spiritual talisman shop, he would come to check on the shop and see Lu Miaoge. "All right, rest assured, boss," Gao he said without further questions, giving a respectful bow. After taking a look at the shop and glancing at Lu Changsheng, he added, "But this shop needs a name. Why don't you choose one, boss? Since it sells talismans, let's just call it Peace Talisman Hall," Lu Changsheng suggested after some thought, coming up with a rather uninspired name. Gao He's mouth twitched slightly. Such shop names were basically cliché. But that's how it was for most shops, except for some major families and powers. They could only build a reputation by slowly accumulating good reviews and growing the business. Subsequently, Gao He discussed the initial preparations for the spirit talisman shop with Lu Changsheng. Having been briefed on this by Lu Changsheng, he had made ready preparations. Lu Changsheng knew that Gao He had put in the effort when he heard this. He had even thought that if it didn't work out, he could ask the Lu family for support. After all, it would be foolish not to use resources that were readily available. Suddenly, Lu Changsheng also discussed the second-order cave mansion with Gao He. He had seen the mansion. It wasn't big, just 100 square meters. But for rent, it could fetch 80 to 90 spirit stones a year. Once the foot traffic increased, he estimated it could be rented out for 100 spirit stones. Lu Changsheng then rented it to Gao He for a base price of 80 spirit stones per year. "Thank you, boss," Gao He gratefully accepted the offer. He planned to clear a path in the Nine Dragons market and, at the same time, bring over his daughter, Gao Xiaoya. After chatting for a while, Lu Changsheng left and went to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. This shop's layout and decorations were similar to those in the Nine Dragons market's Lu family spiritual talisman shop, only larger. "Changsheng, you finished your business?" Lu Miaoge came forward as soon as she knew Lu Changsheng had arrived. Apart from being at home, she still maintained a sense of grace and inaccessibility when outside. "Yes, I've finished," Lu Changsheng said, nodding with a smile. He shared the details of his discussion with Gao He with Lu Miaoge. This is what being husband and wife was like. It wasn't every day that there were fresh and interesting stories to share. Often, much of the time was spent talking about the little things happening around them. The night deepened. Red Leaf Valley was already quiet, now enveloped in silence. Apart from the guards tasked with patrolling, most had entered the realm of dreams. On the 3rd floor of the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Inside the simple bedroom, the bed's curtains hung down. The candlelight flickered gently, as if a full moon had sunk into the water, waves gently lapping. After the deed. "Sister Miaoge, how long do you need to break through to the 9th level of energy refinement?" Chapter 269, Advanced Draw, Heavenly Spiritual Treasure. Lu Changsheng embraced the warm, soft jade, and asked softly, due to the previous assassination attempt and because of her pregnancy and childbirth, Lu Miaoga had only broken through to the 8th level of energy refinement 3 months ago. It should take about 5 or 6 years. Lu Miaoga was still immersed in the afterglow of her cultivation session, her cheeks flushed with a beauty that seemed beyond compare. 5 to 6 years, Lu Changxing heard this and nodded slightly. He understood that at Lu Miaoga's current pace of cultivation, waiting for her to reach perfection in energy refinement and then to attempt foundation establishment would likely take more than a decade. In more than 10 years, by then, maybe I could get a genuine foundation establishment elixir. Moreover, after I reach foundation establishment, I can consider passing on the split sword technique, Lu Changxing thought to himself. Now that Lu Miaoga was his wife, the mother of his children, he naturally paid more attention to her cultivation and foundation establishment. It's nothing, I was just asking. I want to help you with your cultivation, to reach foundation establishment sooner, Lu Changxing whispered to the beauty before him. Then, capturing her tender lips, they continued their cultivation. Among all his wives and concubines, only Lu Miaoga, who was also at the 8th level of energy refinement, produced the best results when dual cultivating with him. A single session of dual cultivation was almost equivalent to half a month of solitary cultivation. Lu Miaoga's cheeks were flushed, her brows gently curved, her eyes gleaming like water, her teeth biting down on her cherry lips. After spending half a month with Lu Miaoga in Red Leaf Valley Market, Lu Changxing returned to Qingzhou Mountain. The distance between Red Leaf Valley and Qingzhou Mountain made his travels much more convenient. On the 3rd day after returning to Qingzhou Mountain, the maid Jiang Luiyue gave birth to a child. This child did not possess a spiritual root, but at the moment of the child's birth, a system prompt arrived as expected. Congratulations, host, the number of your offspring has reached 100, you are awarded 1 advanced lottery draw, advanced lottery. Lu Changxing raised his eyebrows upon hearing this. Previously, when he had 50 children, he received a designated draw, which allowed him to choose any category for the draw. He hadn't expected that reaching 100 children would warrant an advanced lottery draw. If the regular lottery is this powerful, won't the advanced lottery skyrocket? At this moment, Lu Changxing couldn't help but feel excited and anticipatory. He immediately rushed to his study to start the lottery draw. System, I want to draw the lottery. Lu Changxing thought to himself. Instantly, a deep red virtual lottery wheel appeared. It was different from the previous lottery wheels. This wheel had only 4 sections: cultivation technique classics, elixirs, heaven and earth treasures, and spiritual pet treasures. The regular lottery can draw orthodox level cultivation techniques. Could the cultivation technique classics drawn from the advanced lottery be above the orthodox level? And if the pets from the regular lottery are heavenly grade bloodline pets, wouldn't the advanced lottery possibly give true spirit beast cubs? Lu Changxing looked at the advanced lottery wheel in front of him and couldn't help but look forward to it. That feeling of anxious anticipation for the lottery had arisen again. Curious about what reward he would receive this time. System, draw the lottery. Lu Changxing didn't think too much, took a deep breath, and slowly exhaled. With a mental shift, the brilliant gold light appeared on the advanced lottery wheel and began to spin rapidly. After 5 seconds, the light gradually slowed. Finally, with Lu Changxing's heart pounding, the gold light settled on the spiritual pet treasure section. Ding! Congratulations, host, for obtaining a heavenly spiritual treasure, 9 treasure jade rui. The reward has been distributed to the system space. The host can check it at any time. A green rui image, inlaid with what looked like 9 stars, emerged from the lottery wheel accompanied by a system notification tone. Heavenly spiritual treasure. 9 treasure jade rui. Lu Changxing, seeing the reward he obtained, was immediately delighted. He hadn't imagined that he would draw a heavenly spiritual treasure. The treasures used by cultivators are categorized from low to high as magic artifact, spiritual artifact, magical treasure, spiritual treasure, and heavenly spiritual treasure. Heavenly spiritual treasure, the supreme treasure that only nascent divine cultivators could wield and use. It was rumored that treasures of this level had their own artifact spirits, with autonomous consciousness and the ability to think. Unexpectedly, through the advanced lottery, he had drawn a treasure of this level. If a heavenly spiritual treasure has an artifact spirit, it should automatically bond with its master just like a pet does. I wonder if the grand old artifact spirit can give me a boost, Lu Changxing thought hopefully to himself. Then he turned his attention to the heavenly spiritual treasure in the system space. Spiritual treasure, 9 treasure jade rui, grade, heavenly spiritual treasure, description. Before the demise of the divine Lord of 9 heavens, he gathered the essence of all heavenly stars, infused it into the myriad spirits jade, and finally refined it with his 9 great divine abilities. It contains 9 great divine abilities, mysterious and unfathomable, and possesses immense power. Only a person with great magical power can activate it, so the grade is just heavenly spiritual treasure, without detailed grades. Lu Changxing looked at the information of the treasure and felt surprised. This made him recall something he read in an ancient tome. A heavenly spiritual treasure is fundamentally superior to even the finest of the supreme spiritual treasures. Therefore, it is beyond the categorizations of low, middle, high, and supreme. Regardless of whether it's categorized or not, the 4 words heavenly spiritual treasure are enough. Lu Changxing didn't dwell too much on this point. With a mental spirit, he extracted the heavenly spiritual treasure from the system space. Immediately, a beautifully crafted, glossy jade rui about the size of a baby's arm appeared. The glossy jade rui shimmered with light, glimmering like galaxies flowing, beauty beyond words. 9 stars of crimson, blood red, golden yellow, sky blue, deep blue, purple, black, dark black, and pure white were inlaid on it, so exquisite that they seemed to emit their own profound mysteries. He possessed the 100 refinements treasure body art. With this art, he could utilize any magical treasure or spiritual treasure for cultivation, incorporating them into his body to enhance the speed of his 100 refinements treasure body art's cultivation. With the aid of the middle grade black dragon magical bead, his treasure body technique advanced with incredible speed. In about another year, he could break through to the 3rd level. If he refined a high-level spiritual treasure into his body, his 100 refinements treasure body art's cultivation speed would likely skyrocket. Moreover, once the treasure body technique is cultivated to the 5th level, the treasure bone technique can melt the magical treasure into a life-bound treasure bone. Once a life-bound treasure bone is formed, one can wield the magical treasure's divine effects without the need for the black dragon magical bead's origin nurturing, unlike talisman treasures that have limited power and need to be nurtured again after each use. If I were to melt this 9 treasure jade rui into a life-bound treasure bone, then I'd command the 9 great divine abilities of the 9 treasure jade rui. At this moment, Lu Changxing murmured in his heart, thinking about the treasure bone technique in the 100 refinements treasure body art. The current treasure bone technique could only consume a magical treasure's origin to nurture the bones, thereby exerting part of the magical treasure's power, but each time the power was drained, it would need to be nurtured again. But once the 100 refinements treasure body art was cultivated to the 5th level, and the physical body comparable to a spiritual artifact, he could then melt a magical treasure or spiritual treasure with the skull, sternum, spine, and limbs, the 7 treasure bones, into a life-bound treasure bone. Once the life-bound treasure bone was formed, the magical treasure and treasure bone would meld into one. From then on, the magical treasure's divine effects would become the cultivator's life-bound divine abilities, innate divine abilities. With the system by his side, ordinary magical treasures, which had average power and limited potential, Lu Changxing was not too willing to melt them into life-bound treasure bones. Because once a magical treasure is cultivated into a life-bound treasure bone, that particular life-bound treasure bone can no longer assist in cultivation, nor can it refine other magical treasures into the body. Therefore, one must be extremely cautious with the 7 life-bound treasure bones of the treasure body technique. Otherwise, if one casually melds 7 life-bound treasure bones, and can no longer refine magical treasures to assist in cultivation in the future, then the 100 refinements treasure body technique would become practically useless for Lu Changxing. But this 9 treasure jade rui was different. Its grade was that of a high-level spiritual treasure, with an extremely high potential, and contained 9 great divine abilities. Once he mastered these 9 divine abilities, his strength would receive a comprehensive boost. It's absolutely worth melting it into a life-bound treasure bone. However, my 100 refinements treasure body art is only at the 2nd level. Even with the help of magical treasures for cultivation, it will take a long time to break through to the 5th level. Lu Changxing shook his head and exhaled a long breath, not thinking about such long-term matters. Soon after, he sat cross-legged, wanting to see how long it would take for the 100 refinements treasure body art to refine this high-level spiritual treasure. Even the creators of this cultivation technique from 100 Creation Mountain had never tried to use the Qi refinement realm to refine a high-level spiritual treasure. Having magical treasures refined into the body at the Qi refinement realm, which could then be used to assist in cultivation, was already remarkable. How could a high-level spiritual treasure possibly be used for such refinement? In Zhoushan Mansion City, Chu Chang'e walked through the city. He was dressed in a black wide-sleeved robe. His normally white hair had been dyed black and was held up with a hairpin. With a stern face that, besides seeming quiet and reticent, didn't appear much different from an ordinary person. But he was followed by a tall and muscular bald man in black attire. The bald man radiated a compelling majesty, inspiring fear and trembling in those who looked upon him, deterring anyone from getting too close. Chu Chang'e stopped walking, staring at the dazzling facade of the Chu residence in front of him, taken aback and showing a look of astonishment. Chapter 269, Advanced Draw, Heavenly Spiritual Treasure. _4 He clearly remembered that the last time he returned home, his house was desolate and dilapidated, overgrown with weeds. How had it now returned to the appearance he remembered in his memories? Could it be, the scene I saw before, was it all an illusion? In fact, my parents, they might not be dead. Chu Chang'e's heart skipped a beat. The heart that had long been deadened was now roiling with emotion, and tears almost spilled out. But he didn't step forward to knock on the door. With his foundation establishment cultivation, he was able to clearly sense that within the residence, there was only one elderly person. There were no other signs of life. So he knew that the derelict state of the Chu residence he had seen before was not any illusion. The residence before his eyes must have been rebuilt for some reason. At this moment, the elder inside the Chu residence, seeing Chu Chang'e standing at the door, couldn't help but ask, "Young sir, do you need something?" "I thought the Chu residence had been raided by bandits." After a moment of silence, Chu Chang'e replied with a somewhat hoarse voice. "Yes, the Chu family, I don't know what sins we had committed. 10 years ago we were raided by bandits, and the courtyard was left desolate, but then last year." The elder spoke with a hint of melancholy. The old man was of an advanced age, rambling on, but he helped Chu Chang'e understand the situation. He learned that a man and a woman had come to erect a tombstone for his parents and had renovated the residence. Jinjin is still alive. Chu Chang'e immediately knew that the woman the elder spoke of was his sister, Chu Jinjin. Knowing that his sister was still alive, his body couldn't help but tremble. But he soon calmed down again, nodded, and left with the bald man. They had not gone far before the two transformed into an escape light, concealing their forms and entering the courtyard of the Chu residence. Looking at the courtyard, which closely resembled the one from his past yet lacked the vibrancy of life, Chu Chang'e seemed somewhat bewildered as he walked around. Then, in the back courtyard, he saw the tombstones and spirit hall. Father, Chu Qingsong, Mother Zhao's tomb. Son-in-law, Lu Changxing, daughter Chu Jinjin in tribute. Jinjin is married? Chu Chang'e looked at the tombstone before him. The image of his sister, Chu Jinjin, as he remembered her, surfaced in his mind. Knowing that his sister was still alive and now married, he felt joy and relief but also a complex mix of emotions. Time really does fly. It's good that she's married. With Zenshin's temperament, it would be difficult for her to be alone. I wonder how Jinjin is doing these days. Chu Chang'e stared at the tombstone before him, lost in thought, his expression extremely complex. Young master, if you have living relatives you wish to see, I have a secret technique that can trace them through your bloodline, said the man in black armor next to him, attempting to please him. His obsequious demeanor instantly swept away any semblance of his authoritative presence. Forget it, given my current situation, it's better not to disturb her life, Chu Changa said, gently shaking his head. He was acutely aware that he had embarked on a perilous path, one far different from that of ordinary people. If he were to visit his sister, it might disrupt her life. Moreover, he couldn't stay for long on this visit back home. Chu Changa then knelt before the tombstone, went to the spirit hall, and offered incense and tribute. Still, I should go have a look, as long as I don't disturb his life, he sighed as he prepared to leave the Chu residence to investigate the true events of the Chu family's past. He still couldn't let go of his sister in his heart. He decided to check on how his sister Jinjin was doing these days. What should I do? Chu Changa asked, looking toward the man in black armor beside him. Young master, you only need to give me a drop of your blood, and I can use it to trace the bloodline and perform the secret technique, the man in black armor said. Upon hearing this, Chu Changa promptly forced out a drop of bright, clear, scarlet blood. Although in the demon path, there were many techniques that used another's blood to perform spells, even to attack stealthily. But he harbored no such worries. Knowing that his master had certain intentions for him, his life was no longer in his own hands. The man in black armor took the blood and formed hand gestures, turning the blood into a miniature, dark red snake. Young master, this blood-guiding snake will automatically seek out those related to you by blood, said the man in black armor. Let's go, Chu Changa said indifferently, nodding his head as he watched the blood-guiding snake, and he disappeared with the man in black armor from the courtyard. 7 days later. Qingzhou Mountain. Jinjin has also stepped onto the path of cultivation. Chu Changa and the man in black armor followed the blood-colored snake and arrived outside Qingzhou Mountain. He immediately discerned that Qingzhou Mountain was a cultivation family's residence. He had not expected that his sister would come to the residence of a cultivation family and walk the path of a cultivator. Young master, I sense just now that this is but a small family, inside is only one foundation establishment cultivator, said the man in black armor. Young master, would you like to enter directly or sneak in? He asked, his voice still carrying a fawning tone. The next moment, he looked carefully. He could feel a blood connection only with the infant Chu Jinjin was holding, as well as with an 8 or 9-year-old boy and a 6 or 7-year-old girl, which made him feel a kinship as their uncle. He knew only these 3 were his sister's children. Seeing there were only 3, he nodded slightly. If she had given birth to 10 children in 10 years, he feared he might have had thoughts of drawing a sword. Only this child has a spiritual root, huh? Chu Change's eyes fell on the 3 children to whom he felt related by blood, focusing on Lu Chuanjin. Chu Jinjin had given birth to 4 children. Among them, the first child, Lu Chuanjin, and the third child, Lu Caijin, possessed a spiritual root. However, Lu Caijin was still not of schooling age and was playing at home. I wonder what kind of spiritual root this child has. Chu Changa thought to himself. Throughout these years, although he had been constantly forced to cultivate in the darkness, he had also acquired a general understanding of the cultivation world. He knew that compared to the secular world, the cultivation world was even more brutal. A stark world of survival of the fittest, selection of the superior and elimination of the inferior. If his nephew's spiritual root was mediocre, he would face many hardships when he began cultivating as he grew up. Sigh. Chu Changa sighed. His heart had become numb and silent over the years. But at that moment, he couldn't help feeling sentimental. He was not only worried about his sister's life but also, by extension, concerned about his nephew's situation. He shook his head slightly, choosing not to dwell further on these thoughts. Aware of his current situation, how could he afford to care about others? Watching Chu Jinjin and others chat and laugh as they gradually moved away, he closed his eyes. Let's go. Chu Changa reopened his eyes, determination shining within them. He turned and walked toward the exit of Qingzhou Mountain. Now that he had seen his sister and knew she was living well, he felt at ease. He was acutely aware of his current circumstances. If he had too much contact with his sister, he would only bring harm upon her. What he needed to do now was to live well, strive to survive, and improve himself. Until he possessed the strength to control his own destiny. No matter how dangerous the future might be, whether it was fortune or calamity, this was his only choice, his only path. Just as his master had said. In this world, only one's own strength is eternal. A breeze blew through, rustling the bamboo, causing a sense of utmost comfort and peace. Chu Jinjin, who was talking to Lu Changxing, seemed to sense something. She suddenly turned her head, looking in the direction of Chu Chang'e. But there was nothing there. Jinjin, what's the matter? Lu Changxing asked Chu Jinjin. Nothing. Chu Jinjin gently shook her head, dismissing the indistinct feeling. Lu Changxing was unaware of Chu Chang'e's visit. His daily life continued as usual, cultivating, making talismans, and spending time with his wife and children. There was just one more thing he did, refining the 9-treasure jade rui. Indeed, the 9-treasure jade rui, a heaven-reaching spiritual treasure, proved to be 100 times harder to refine than the black dragon magical bead had been. Even with the profound origin bead in his possession, and spending 1 or 2 hours a day on its refinement, it would probably take 3 to 5 years. Although this period was long, he was very much looking forward to the effects of fully refining the 9-treasure jade rui and integrating it into his body. Chapter 271, Breakthrough in Cultivation Level, Spiritual Root Promotion. Before one realized, 2 months had gone by. Lu Changxing, I think I'm pregnant again. That day, Lu Miaohuan ran over and said to Lu Changxing. Initially, she had said she would only have 1 child, yet now, barely a year after the first child's birth, she was pregnant again. She revealed a look of helplessness and frustration. Did you forget to force it out using your spiritual power? Lu Changxing was slightly taken aback upon hearing the words of the second mistress, before immediately responding. Even if not for the purpose of having children, the two of them often cultivated together. In such cases, if he did not control himself and Lu Miaohuan forgot to force it out, there was a not-so-small chance of getting pregnant. What should I do then? Lu Miaohuan pouted her red lips, and spoke somewhat innocently. If you're pregnant, then let's have it. This will be the last one, Lu Changxing said softly, gently stroking her head with a tender expression. Emichim. Lu Miaohuan nodded heavily. After spending some quality time accompanying the second mistress, Lu Changxing saw that it was already the end of the month. He then left the house and rode the Iron Feather Eagle to the Red Leaf Valley Market. By now, Red Leaf Valley had been open for over 3 months. Yet, the popularity was still average, and the streets looked desolate. In such a desolate state, the business of his Peace Talisman Hall was also very bleak. If it were not for the shop being his own, with the current situation, it would be operating at a loss. After all, not only was the foot traffic low. At this stage, all the major shops were selling at promotional prices of 60 to 70% off for the sake of reputation and business, leaving hardly any profit margin. Lu Changxing walked around his own shop and checked the monthly account book for income and expenditures. Sigh, after deducting all sorts of raw materials and labor costs, we've only made 31 spirit stones in profit. It's not even enough to pay the rent, we actually have to put in money. Fortunately, in a year or two, the marketplace's foot traffic should gradually increase, and profits will recover somewhat. As Lu Changxing looked at this month's accounts, he couldn't help but feel speechless. This made Gao He, who was nearby, somewhat uneasy. Although it's common for there to be no foot traffic when the market first opens, and businesses are promoting to capture the market. But for a shop on the main street to make just over 30 spirit stones in a month. It was indeed embarrassing for him, as the talisman master and shopkeeper who presided over the shop. Lu Changxing waved his hand and did not say much more. He knew this was normal. Because Lu Maiage's spiritual talisman shop on the other side was the same. Due to its location and the franchise brand, their situation was slightly better than his. Shortly after, Lu Changxing visited the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop at Qingzhou, where he normally cultivated with his wife, Lu Miaoge, to enhance their bond and cultivation level. 1 month later. Inside the Qingzhou mountain practice room, Lu Changxing was sitting in meditation, practicing the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture. Suddenly, within the spiritual power sea of his dantian, the energy surged tumultuously. Sword qi encircled him, sharp and vigorous, as dust scattered and an indistinct spiritual pressure filled the air. 9th level qi refinement. Lu Changxing opened his eyes, and a faint smile appeared on his handsome face. He was not overly surprised by this breakthrough. After all, cultivating the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, he had a rough idea of his own progress in cultivation. And such a breakthrough was natural for him, smooth and seamless. Lu Changxing took a look inside at his 7-colored Dan lake and felt the changes after the breakthrough. The spiritual power inside his body had increased by almost 30%. As his cultivation level broke through, the profound origin bead floating above the Dan lake began to rotate slowly. This magical artifact, too, had its effects enhanced as Lu Changxing's cultivation level advanced. Relying on the profound origin bead, could I now contend with an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator? Lu Changxing pondered, feeling the spiritual power boosted by the profound origin bead. Based on what he had seen in Red Leaf Valley, he felt that his current strength would allow him to withstand a few moves against a foundation-building great cultivator. If he were to employ all his techniques, he might even have a chance at killing a foundation establishment great cultivator. However, Lu Changxing merely entertained the thought without any real intention of pursuing it. Who in their right mind would seek out a fight with a foundation-building great cultivator? He vividly recalled Ancestor Chen's desperate self-destruction, wielding spiritual artifacts and heavenly thunder pearls. If not for absolute strength, both parties would end up wounded in a clash of spells. At this rate, I estimate that in 3 to 5 years, I will be ready to make a push for foundation establishment. With the foundation establishment spirit objects and foundation establishment elixir at my disposal, foundation establishment should be almost a certainty for me. Lu Changxing briefly settled the restless spiritual power and stood up, stretching his limbs and waist. He pushed open the door and stepped out of the practice room. Because the breakthrough had taken a long time, it was now deep into the night. Lu Changxing, looking at the moonlight, felt no urge for late-night moon gazing or sentimental musings. He went to Lu Miaoge's room. Of course, he didn't play favorites. He did the same for all the children. Witnessing this, the nearby martial masters were filled with reverence. All right, everyone's tired, let's go have a meal. Lu Changxing patted the children's heads and led them to have breakfast. The breakfast was very rich and nutritiously balanced. After all, this was a time when the children were growing. In this aspect, Lu Changxing never stinted. He also wasn't short on money. After eating, Lu Changxing took Lu Pingan and the other children to the backyard to feed the 9 netherhound. Raised for so many years, the 9 netherhound had grown as robust as a bull. Its mouth full of intersecting sharp fangs and its body covered in jet-black fur that shone like satin. Last year, the 9 netherhound had progressed to a first-grade middle-stage demon beast. But for Lu Changxing, it meant little. To expect the 9 netherhound to give him a lift was clearly impossible. Unless he was willing to spend a vast amount of resources to cultivate the 9 netherhound and accelerate its growth. But the cost was too great. Lu Changxing, despite having plenty of spare cash, could not afford such expenses. He planned on raising it slowly. In the future, it would serve as his family's guardian spiritual beast, to accompany his children and protect them on their journeys. 6 days later. Dad, Uncle Hong is here. While Lu Changxing was chatting in the backyard with his wives and children, a little one ran over and exclaimed, "You guys keep playing, I'll head over there." Hearing this, Lu Changxing guessed it might be Xiao Xia, Zhao Qingqing, and Han Lin who had arrived, so he left to greet them. After seeing Hong Yi, the latter indeed confirmed that Han Lin, Xiao Xia, and Zhao Qingqing had arrived and were outside the city. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded and went with Hong Yi to receive them from outside the city. As the two approached the city gates, they immediately saw 2 women and 1 man, 3 figures coming their way. It was Xiao Xia, Zhao Qingqing, and Han Lin. Xiao Xia was dressed in pale moon white, with long black hair cascading down to her waist. Her strikingly beautiful face had not changed much in the past 10 years. Skin fair as jade, features delicate and elegant, she was breathtaking. But her overall appearance and demeanor had undergone an earth-shattering transformation compared to 10 years ago. Back then, she was characterized by her forthrightness and vivacity. Her face wore a bright smile that was as warm as the spring sun, easily inviting favor from those around her. The current Xiao Xia, however, had a cool countenance. Her aura was like that of the pure, untouchable moon shining high above, serene, noble, detached from the world. She was someone people would admire from afar, wary of approaching her without due reverence. Lu Changxing, observing Xiao Xia's transformation, felt somewhat astonished.